Good. Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with Channel 19. We are joined by Dr. Melissa Jenkins, and we're coming to you live from MetroHealth because this is such a public health issue. Of course, we're talking about Cyclospora, the produce parasite that we've all been dealing with. You're watching us live on our social media platforms right now. You're probably either on YouTube or maybe you're joining us on Facebook. We want your questions because we've all had them. We've never really heard of Cyclospora because we're not an infectious disease expert like Dr. Jenkins is. So we want you to be emailing us your questions. So I'm going to give you the email throughout the day. It is yourhealth@woio.com. You can also go to the Facebook page if you're watching the live stream. Right there in the comments, we're going to be taking questions. We're going to be here for 3.5 hours. We're going to get to know each other very well over the course of this, but we're also going to learn a lot about Cyclospora, how to keep you and your family safe. That's all this is about. We know this is not a time to panic, correct, doctor? That's not what this is.
Correct.
Because as we're going to discover, you can be treated for this. The good news, no one has died from this in the state of Ohio. I don't even know in this outbreak if anyone...
No one in the outbreak has died.
That's great news. But when you start to hear about the symptoms and the fact that you could have a GI issue for a month straight and multiple episodes a day, that's where it gets a little concerning because nobody wants that. So I can hear in my ear that our 3 o'clock news is about to get underway. So we're going to be jumping back and forth between our conversation. Ashley is over here. She's going to be running all the questions that come in. So if, again, you're watching this on Facebook, and we've already started taking a lot of questions from folks through that email address. Again, the email address, if you want to email in a question, it's yourhealth, YOURHEALTH, at WOIO.com, because you do have questions, whether you're a parent, a grandparent, maybe you work in a nursery and you're not sure what to do in this situation. We're going to get to some of those questions. I'm going to ask this same question again when we get on air. But Dr. Jenkins, why are we seeing this now? And we've never really, at least, we're not the experts. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's been around, but we've never heard of this before. What happened?
So it has been around for a long time. It's seasonal, so we typically see cases between May and July or August of every year. Usually not to this scale. I think that's what makes this year notable.
So what scale do we normally see? So you see, what, 10 patients a year or?
Probably about 900 cases in the country. So
in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we know Ohio is approaching, and there's new numbers that came out today, and we're going to get to those. Mm-hmm. We're in the hundreds of cases just for Ohio.
Yes.
Is there a reason this has happened?
So most cases of Cyclospora are related to a point source, meaning it originates at one place and then gets distributed, usually through fresh produce. We haven't found what the source is for this outbreak, but it's likely a commercial farm that has wide distribution.
So we've seen, what are some of the other diseases? Because we hear about this, a farm uses water that's been infected with whether animal feces or whatever. Mm-hmm. That is, what disease is that we hear about from time to time?
E. coli, salmonella,
right.
Hep A, all can be
okay.
that scenario.
So what's the difference between E. coli, salmonella, and...
The others, so Cyclospora is a parasite. It's harder to kill with our typical washing and sanitizing. The others are bacteria, and they also can be hard to kill, but not as hard as Cyclospora.
Okay. So that's going to be the topic of conversation over the next 3.5 hours. We're going to take some breaks in between because I don't know that we can talk about this disgusting parasite for 3.5 hours straight. But again, I want you to get in your questions. If you're watching us live on Facebook right now, that's going to be the easiest way, right down there in the comments. Ashley's going to monitor those. If you're watching us on YouTube, that's probably easier to email us. And that email address, again, is yourhealth@woio.com. Any questions for Dr. Jenkins? And obviously, and doctor can attest to this, this isn't the only health issue that we've been planning this for a couple of days now. We had no idea that the smoke was coming as bad as it is. So a little bit later, we're actually going to have a doctor come up from the emergency department, and we'll be talking about the smoke issue. And in fact, I can hear that's what they're talking about on Channel 19 right now. We're going to pause for just a minute as our first hit is coming up. So for those of you watching on our digital properties, you're going to see a little bit of behind the scenes kind of stuff. You're going to hear the doctor and I discussing sort of what we're going to do for the next hit on Channel 19. So we invite you to stay with us and learn everything we can about Cyclospora. So again, our first hit is coming up, and I think we'll do just exactly what we just did. Why have we never really heard about it before? It's been here. Do the spiel you just did. We have about two and a half minutes for each one. So we're not going to get real science-y. Let's not get into breaking down atoms and stuff.
Good.
But we're close. So we've got Keith in, and then we'll be coming up. At some point, I'll be losing the jacket because it's a little warm in here.
It's never the right temperature.
I can't believe the lights anymore. Yeah. Put off the heat we used to.
Yeah, I was talking to Dr. Margolius, and he confirmed, like as we were on air with him, that we are at 520 parts per whatever particles in the air. And he said that's worse than we ever had in 2023 when we all thought it was really bad.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Escameda is on right now.
Yeah, they were outside.
Yeah.
We probably should have just set up shop today.
Thanks for coming over here
Oh,
to do it.
Absolutely. You didn't want to come to the studio?
It makes me nervous.
And it's full of smoke.
Yeah, that's true.
Also, I need to go back to work after this.
Oh, do you really? Oh, my goodness. Again, for those of you watching on our digital channels, we're just waiting for our hit on Channel 19, which I believe is coming up here in the next 30, 40 seconds. So we'll be back with our digital audience here in just a minute. As you can see, I don't have the big board with me. We're here at the library here in MetroHealth, and I'm joined by Dr. Melissa Jenkins. She's an infectious disease doctor here for MetroHealth. And we're actually live for this entire time on our digital platforms. You can watch us have a conversation on YouTube and on Facebook, and we're soliciting your questions. I'm going to give you more on that in a second. But Dr. Jenkins, I asked you this on our digital side already, but why are we just finding out about this? Cyclospora has been around, but why are we just now hearing about this?
There's been many outbreaks over the last couple of decades, usually associated with produce, but this one is larger than the scale that we usually see. More cases per year, and just more widespread.
We were talking about that. What does the country normally see for cases in a year?
Probably 900 or so
For the
throughout
whole country. And we're dealing with thousands. We know Michigan has reported 3,000. Our new numbers have come out recently. So why so big, or do we know?
Most cases or outbreaks of cyclospora come from one single source, a farm that's distributing produce. In this case, we don't know where the source is, but it's likely some commercial farm that has a wide distribution area.
And so that's what the FDA is trying to find out now, and at the national level that they're investigating. You're seeing cases here at MetroHealth, correct?
We have seen some, not me personally, but my colleagues have seen some cases.
Okay. So I tell you what we're going to do. Again, we're going to be live with Dr. Jenkins on our digital platforms, and we want your questions. Either go to the Facebook, our Facebook page, Channel 19, and watch the live stream and put your questions right there, or send us an email. We've created a new email address just for this. It is yourhealth, YOURHEALTH, at WOIO.com. Ashley from our digital team is monitoring, bringing in all your questions, and we'll get them answered for you over the next few hours here on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose at MetroHealth. We'll be back. And in 7 minutes, we'll be back on TV. All right, so this gives us a chance for our first question. Mark C. is asking, can you have a mild case, or are all infections severe?
There is a range of severity. For most people, it's something that isn't that bad and may go away on its own without any treatment at all. For people who have other medical conditions or might be immunocompromised, the disease can be more severe.
Let's talk about, this is the unpleasant side of things. What do we generally see? What are the symptoms with this?
Primarily diarrhea, often explosive diarrhea, multiple times per day. People can get loss of appetite, sometimes nausea with it, but it's really the profound diarrhea that is the main symptom.
And I'm not the expert, but I know enough. If you have that level of diarrhea, you have just depleted your body of all that liquid. So now we're talking about dehydration.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what makes the case severe. If it leads to dehydration and someone who's very fragile, that can lead to kidney problems with dehydration, especially with it being so hot out now. You add that to everything and it can be severe.
So now you're just stacking on stacking on stacking, and it can, obviously we haven't had any deaths, but it can be a concern. The next question from Mark C. says, is there any way to be tested?
There is a test. It's a stool test, and the microbiology lab will look for the parasite in the stool.
That's fairly simple to do. But there's nothing you can go to the drugstore and pick up some sort of home test or anything like that.
No, not at this time.
Okay. Again, if you're watching us on our digital platforms, want you to get your questions in so Dr. Jenkins can get to them, and we'll roll on with our coverage. This is probably just a question for me. Are you surprised by this outbreak? You study infectious diseases. I'm sure you've been studying COVID and in the past, but is this kind of thing surprising to you?
I mean, it's definitely happened, as I mentioned, over the decades, not just with cyclospora, but other pathogens as well. So it was only a matter of time before we saw something of this magnitude.
And I need to write this down. The two other you said that we've seen of this are
so
E. coli.
We've seen E. coli outbreaks, salmonella outbreaks, hepatitis A.
And again, remind me, why are those different than what we're seeing here with cyclospora?
They're more the same than they are different, I think. And they're both one source that gets spread everywhere. But E. coli and salmonella are more susceptible to some of our disinfectants and cleaning.
And we're going to get to that. That's what's different about this one. I know we did a story yesterday. We sent one of our reporters to talk to can't remember which Department of Health that individual is from, but talking about pools and splash pads because chlorine doesn't kill this.
That's correct.
That's got to make this difficult. We're not trying to close down every pool, but
The good news is that there hasn't been any person-to-person spread that we've seen. It's generally not spread from person to person. So if someone's infected, you can't catch it from them. It's only if you eat the same thing.
That's big. So if a family ate the same lettuce or went to the same restaurant, if we have found the link
Yes.
that this isn't person to person, that changes things quite a bit.
It does.
Why?
I think that it spreads less well, and then once we find out what that source is and control that inventory, then we should see the number of cases going down.
You can't answer this, but when we find out what this source is, somebody's in trouble.
I can't answer that.
But I mean, that's going to be the general consensus. Let's be honest. If this is a restaurant or a chain or a produce farm, somebody has got some explaining to do. Where do we know where Cyclospora comes from? Did I hear this is maybe generally an islands kind of? No, is that in a parasite or does it originate?
I have not heard that.
No,
but you could be right. I don't know.
It doesn't. You're the expert. Why are parasites particularly nasty?
They make a cyst that is hard for the disinfectants to get in and makes them very hardy. So freezing doesn't kill them. Boiling does. So if you cook your frozen food or your vegetables, that kills it. And that's why fresh produce is such an issue.
And that's going to get us to one of our next questions. Let's get to... We've got a lot of questions here. Karen C. asking, am I safer eating frozen fruits and vegetables?
It unfortunately cannot be killed by freezing, at least in most residential freezers. So if you are, let's say you have frozen broccoli and you boil it, then you're good.
Okay.
But if you want to eat frozen raspberries, for instance, that you're not going to cook, that could still be a risk.
Not a lot of people taking out some broccoli and chewing on a frozen piece of broccoli.
No.
Okay. That makes sense. But I did hear, we interviewed a mother and she was like, oh, we've just moved to frozen fruits in our smoothies and stuff. And so that may not be a fix here either.
Correct.
If we determine that's the source, is
Yes.
a frozen. Okay. So again, for our viewers, I'm monitoring our television hits here that we're also going to do. We've got another hit coming up here in about 2.5 minutes. So I think we'll go with Mark's question again. On can you have a mild dose, mild case or severe?
Okay.
And then we'll do the testing question. Yeah, so I never really thought about that. You know, if this is a frozen raspberry problem and poor raspberries are getting picked on, I don't know why that one's coming up quite a bit.
They're classically what I was taught when I was in training is that cyclospora is associated with raspberries because so many of the outbreaks have been associated with raspberries. Just gets into that little cup under the raspberry and the little divots. Oh,
wow. I got to remember to ask you that on TV. That's great. Because, no, I remember hearing, I used some sound earlier this week from a doctor at UC Davis or Irvine, I can't remember which, and he was like, hey, we all love fresh raspberries, and so I was wondering why he brought that up, so I need to remember to ask you about that. So obviously you remember studying about cyclospora. I'm sure you studied a ton of stuff, though. Yeah. What did you learn about cyclospora, or what stuck out?
That it comes from raspberries.
That was it.
Causes diarrhea.
Next page. That was it. Turn the page in your medical textbook. Excellent. We're just a minute and a half or so away from our next TV hit. Again, if you're watching on our digital platforms, get us some questions. Are we seeing?
We've got 2 more.
Oh, we're getting some more questions. That's great. Say it again.
You got one about air quality
Oh, oh, good, the air quality one, because we will have, that doctor is going to come in our 4 o'clock hour to talk about all the smoke that we've been seeing. Oh, so that's a good one. So that I'm not springing anything on the doctor, I'm going to show her. And then that's for air quality. We'll keep that one there.
I'm not sure that might be worse.
I was interested. I have done a lot of work with Dr. Amy Edwards, your counterpart, and she told me, like, the interesting thing is if somebody had a bout of diarrhea and got over it in a day or two, you did not have cyclospora.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Stand by. Yes, and we're getting a lot of questions already. Dr. Melissa Jenkins is our expert. I think by the end of this, because we're going to be live for about 3.5 hours, I might be able to write a dissertation that would get an F. It would fail, but I might be able to write something on this. We're taking your questions through a couple of different sources. We'll get to that. Mark C. wrote in and asked, can you have a mild case or are all infections severe?
There's a range of severity. You can have a mild case, you can have a more severe case. It somewhat depends on your other medical conditions. People who have immunocompromise are at a higher risk of having a severe infection. In some cases, the infection gets better even without any treatment.
Now, apologies for anyone who's maybe eating an early dinner. Let's get to this question. What does a severe case look like? What are we talking about here?
Diarrhea, obviously, multiple times per day. You can have abdominal cramping, nausea, loss of appetite, generally feeling bad.
And it's the idea of having multiple sessions of diarrhea, which, man, I can't imagine. Now, other things are going to stack up. What happens when a person is going through symptoms like that?
The biggest risk is for dehydration. You're losing your fluids, you're losing electrolytes, and especially with it being so hot out now, you add that, you're losing more fluids. People can become dehydrated very quickly.
Yeah, that's why it's going to be important to get seen and get tested and get treatment. We're going to talk about treatments in one of our later segments. You can watch us live, get your questions in live, go to our Facebook stream, the Cleveland 19 Facebook, you can go to our YouTube stream, or you can email us your questions right now at yourhealth@woio.com. Ashley from our digital desk is bringing in all the questions, and we'll get answers from Dr. Jenkins in subsequent hits. We'll see you soon. Excellent. So people watching us on digital, that's kind of how it goes. We sit here and chat and we wait for our hit, and our next hit probably isn't coming up for about another 14 or so minutes. So let's get to another couple of questions. I'm going to put this off to the side because we got it. Is there any way to be tested? We started to talk about this, or we talked about this, our frozen vegetables. We've sort of done that. We haven't done that on TV, so I'm going to just put that we've done this digital. We actually did just get a question in from Tammy J, right? This came from Tammy J just recently. Tammy J is asking, so Tammy, thanks for the question. Does steam kill the parasite both in cooking and in cleaning?
It depends on how hot the steam is. The temperature has to be 165 for the parasite to be killed. It might be hard to get that high just with steam alone. It's really the boiling.
Okay.
that kills the parasite.
And you said, you started to get into this earlier, that's why this parasite is particularly nasty, is because it builds something around it to try and survive, is what this is trying to do?
Exactly. It makes a cyst, and that cyst is not susceptible to the things that usually kill things like bacteria.
And it's doing that, and I've learned this from past infectious disease coverage. These diseases are very smart, and they want to survive, and they want to thrive. And so that's why they adapt. That's why COVID keeps changing, is because we keep trying to kill it. It keeps trying to survive and change and mutate. Is that what's happening with Cyclospora, or is this just the run-of-the-mill? Do we know that yet?
So it's not known to kind of change and evade our attempts to kill it, but this cyst is part of just its basic
Survival skill.
defensive, yeah.
Wow. So cleaning, steaming. Not sure how you would get, if you were cleaning toilets or with 165 degree steam. I don't know what kind of cleaner Tammy has, some sort of professional steam cleaner. That would be great.
Yeah.
But you're saying it would need to be pretty hot, pretty sustainable.
Right, and we mentioned this earlier, there's not any person-to-person spread, so disinfecting countertops and toilets and things are not as big a part of managing your exposure risk as washing your produce.
Unless you had produce on the counter and it left the parasite on the counter.
I guess then if you licked the counter and got exposed to the cyst.
Don't lick counters. See, if you learned anything by watching this, the doctor has just told you not to lick your counter. That's why we came to MetroHealth. That's phenomenal advice. I love that. Tammy J., thank you for your question. Again, if you have other questions, if you're watching the Facebook stream, and I think Ashley's indicating we do have a couple more. I'm going to write that we did this digitally, but we haven't done it on TV. I'm going to put those here. As you can see, I hope I fill up this whole thing. Ashley, I hope you brought a ton of Post-its. Couple more questions. Let's do this. Let's go from Rose S. And now I am springing these on you.
Okay.
Will the sickness go away on its own if you don't seek medical help? That's an interesting question.
It will for a lot of people.
Okay.
The illness can last anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks, but it can resolve on its own with no treatment.
Those are the lucky ones.
Yeah.
So what would a mild case look like where it resolved on its own? 1 or 2 days, or is
Probably
this?
a little bit longer.
So this is not a one-day event?
Not a one-day event. That's
Okay.
probably some other kind of infectious diarrhea if it's just one day.
Yeah, you just had a bad burrito, and it had nothing to do with the produce inside of it.
Yes.
Okay, or seeking medical help. What does seeking medical help look like? Let's say I do have 3-4 days of this. I'm at my wit's end, literally, and I get into my doctor. What does treatment look like? Because this is where the non-scary part of this comes in.
So it's not recommended to treat without confirmation that it's Cyclospora, because the treatment could be different for other causes of diarrhea. But once it's confirmed, the treatment is trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, also called Bactrim.
Say it again. What was that first?
Trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole.
Easy for you to say.
That's why we mostly call it Bactrim. And that's a 7-day course of antibiotics.
Is that a fairly common antibiotic?
It's a common antibiotic. This is an uncommon use of a common antibiotic. It's used for a lot of other things as well.
So why is it uncommon? Just
uncommonly used for because we
Cyclospora.
don't see a lot of Cyclospora. I
there
guess
you
that
go.
was a better way.
There
to
you go.
put it.
No, that makes complete sense. Rose, I hope that got your question answered. I'm gonna write again, digital on that. We'll put that here. I hope we litter this table. Let's get to the question from LA, the initials LA. Are children affected any differently than adults?
And they can also get Cyclospora, and the symptoms are very similar.
Diarrhea. Are the
abdominal
complications different because they're maybe a small child? What if it's a baby as opposed to a toddler?
I don't do pediatrics, but I don't believe that it's any different.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so let's talk about older. You're probably not in geriatrics either then?
More geriatrics than pediatrics.
Okay.
So
Why is this a concern for somebody that's maybe in their 70s, 80s? Why should this be, whoa?
two things. Older people have more other medical problems. And secondly, they're more prone to dehydration. And that's the main complication that
And
we
then
would
you
see.
pile on, I know that there are medications that older populations take that already make you fairly dehydrated. Again, we get to that stacking issue where you're stacking problem on top of problems.
Yeah.
That's what you need to look out for. LA, thank you for that question. Looks like Ashley's getting even more, but let's get to one of our other questions. Frank writing, how do you get rid of it once you have it? We've kind of answered that, but we can go over it again. How do you get rid of it once you have it?
Some people will get rid of it on their own. If not, Bactrim for 7 days, an antibiotic course.
And I'm assuming it's one of those antibiotics that when you are prescribed it, don't take it for 3 days and just stop.
Correct. You should take the whole course.
Is it one of those where it's 1 pill the first day, 2 pills the second day?
1 pill twice a day.
Okay, just for 7 days. So even the treatment is easy.
Beyond that antibiotic, there's no other proven treatments that are effective. A lot of people are allergic to sulfa drugs, which Bactrim is a sulfa drug. So that's a little bit trickier of a situation.
Say that again. So if I'm allergic to a
Sulfa.
those people would know if they were allergic to that. That makes sense. Good question there. Frank, we did that digital. We're going to save that for our ED doctor because, again, if you're watching us on our digital platform, we're rolling right along here. You've killed off the first half hour, so hey, 3 hours to go. So we better get the coffee flowing. But if you're watching on digital, want to remind you, you can get us questions. I see even more questions coming in from Ashley. You can also email us. Ashley, make sure you put on there if it was an email or if it came from Facebook. Just write FB or email on there. Because you can email us at yourhealth@woio.com. If you're watching us on Facebook, that's very simple. Ashley's monitoring that as well. And then if you're on YouTube, it's probably easiest to get to that email address. Ashley, thank you very much. We do have 2 email questions here. Wow. I think this is phenomenal. Lauren B., great question. I think you'll get this wrong. I think we've said, no, I'm messing with you. I think this is a great question. Best way to maintain a healthy diet without fresh produce? Because we've gotten to this point to where people are like, I'm going to go to the restaurant, but I'm skipping the salad. Bring me that steak, but I'm going to skip the salad. What's the advice here?
The outbreak is not going to last forever.
Okay.
So if you can wait it out, you'll be able to get back to your fresh produce soon. Local produce is less likely to be associated with the outbreak. It's believed that this is probably from a commercial source since the distribution is so large. So buying local produce is perhaps safer.
And so that goes because we've sort of touched on this a little bit. When we're talking about E. coli and Salmonella, I know from covering those in the past, you get a farm that waters their lettuce or their tomatoes or whatever the heck it is, and their water has become contaminated with, because they're on a farm, maybe there's been some farm runoff from the animals that has gotten into that water source, and now they've sprayed it all over the produce, and that's how it's gotten in there. not a lot of local producers. If you're going to a farmer's market, now there still can be issues, but if you're going to a farmer's market, or we did a story with the Ohio City farm, you know, there's no animals on the Ohio City farm. It's right up the street here. And so they're not spraying it with contaminated water. That's why you're saying maybe local produce is good.
It's not no risk, but it's lower risk for that reason that you said. And even if there are animals on the farm, it's less likely. With the degree that we're seeing the outbreak, it's probably not a little farm that's...
And they're probably not also drawing from a well. They're probably using Cleveland Public Water, or they're tapped into a water system. You know, they're not using a well that got contaminated with the animal feces, which is, wow. This just, all of this makes me just say, you wash that. Can you wash those cherries again? I had cherries for lunch today. Just can we wash them again just to make sure? I like that question so much, Lauren B. We're going to ask that on television here in just another minute or two. We're coming back from break. I think we're going to do weather and then get into that. But I love that the questions are rolling in. This is exactly what this is for. If you're watching us on Facebook, very easy to put your question there. If you're on YouTube, maybe you want to email us a question like our viewers from TV are doing. You've got even more. This is great. I'm becoming buried in questions. We can take them. I'll take them all. That's how important this is. Haven't even gotten to Cindy O yet. Mark C has another one. Kathy R. Jasmine M. We're going to get to all yours. Lauren B, we just did. We're going to do that on TV. And Chris and Canton, we're going to get to yours. How quickly in the past have outbreaks been identified? Maybe we'll try and get to, well, you may not know that. How quickly in the past have outbreaks been identified? And I think we can speak in generalities, whether it's E. coli, salmonella, how quickly, and are you surprised yet that they haven't been able to identify this? So we'll ask that too.
Okay. That's a way to get around it.
There you go.
I was eating my own basil earlier.
Right. And that's all you ate was just basil. Mike, I'm going to have you, when we come back, I'm going to have you pan down. We're getting all kinds of questions. We want them to keep coming in. Thanks for bringing orange Post-it notes. That was perfect. Perfect.
It's in the bag, so it's perfect. Yeah.
There you go. I bet he could find us. It's Tom, right? I think Tom could probably find us a few more if he had. Yes. Okay. Well, I'm doing some of them here on TV, some of them. Yeah, but I'll mention that too. Okay. All right. On TV. Right. We have a minute, weather, and then us. I think we asked this. Are the symptoms all or nothing, meaning? So I think this one's done. So I'll put an X by the ones that are done and the ones that we've done on digital. I think that was another one of Mark's. We are getting a lot of questions, and they were just reminding me to tell people. So for people watching digitally, I need to remind people on TV that this is where we're going to be answering the majority of our questions. Only a couple of questions are going to get answered on TV. But I think we're doing great here. I never heard back on if... Okay. Hey, Heather, you were in the newsroom. Was there any objection to my plan about splitting up the hits? Working on it, meaning they agreed. Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Yeah, sorry. All right. Stand by. Mike, stand by. Yeah, that's part of this. I want to show you, these are the questions that we've already gotten to. Obviously here on TV, we're only getting to a couple of your questions. So if you're emailing us, if you're going and you need an answer, make sure you go to watch our live stream either on YouTube or on Facebook. I thought this was a great question from Lauren B. that got emailed into us. Best way to maintain a healthy diet without fresh produce. I mean, this is a problem now. We're all a little afraid to eat that salad at dinner.
Yeah. So I think one thing to remember is the outbreak isn't going to last forever. So if we can get through it, then you'll be able to eat your fresh produce down the line. Secondly, local produce may be a safer option because it's a widespread outbreak, probably from a commercial farm, is what is suspected. So eating local is less likely to be involved with the outbreak.
So we've seen this in the past with E. coli and salmonella. You get a farm where their water supply was tainted by feces. They're spraying, they're watering all their lettuce, their tomatoes. That's where so we think that. So if somebody's got a local garden, a local produce, a farmer's market, more than likely, not what you said, not fail safe, but safer.
Safer.
Safer. Next one, how quickly in the past have we seen outbreaks get identified? A question from Chris and Kent.
It depends. Usually we're able to identify it within, we meaning public health, able to identify it within a few weeks. With such a large outbreak, it's harder to pin down where it's coming from because there's so many cases.
Yeah, and the FDA is looking into that. Again, if you'd like to email us a question, go to, send us an email at yourhealth@woio.com or just go to the live stream on Facebook. We're going to be streaming for hours here. Submit your question there and you'll be able to see a lot more of these answered than we're getting to here on TV. But we'll be back here at Metro here shortly again with Dr. Jenkins from MetroHealth. And there we go. Let's get to, I think one, our other doctor might be here. Oh, okay. I thought I saw somebody on the other side of the door there. Okay. Let's, so now we've done this on TV, obviously. If we did it on TV, we did it here digitally, so we can put an X here. For those still watching digitally, thanks for sticking with us. Let's get to a couple more questions. Kathy R., and this is one that we're going to hear a lot. Safest way to wash produce?
So not soap, water. You don't want to put soap on your raspberries. At least 1 minute of thorough rinsing. There's some information that says adding some vinegar to it can help, but that's not been proven.
Okay. Yeah, where is that coming from, or what's the idea behind that, maybe?
The acidity of it, perhaps.
So the cyst that this grows with doesn't like acid kind of thing, maybe?
Maybe.
Has to be looked into. Yeah. Boy, everybody comes up with an instant homemade recipe for this kind of stuff. Yeah,
I've seen lemon juice, people talking about, but water is the main thing, and longer than you might think.
Really? If we can't kill it with just water, and we can't kill it with chlorine, and we can't kill it, you don't want to put bleach on your food. Please don't put bleach on your food at all. What is it about washing it longer? You're just hoping to scrape it away?
Mechanical removal, yes.
Okay. And what's interesting about when we start talking about raspberries, and I think we touched on this, but in case people are just joining us, that's why when you were studying this, that's why it's associated with raspberries. Walk us through that again. Why are they so commonly the bad guy when it comes to cyclospora?
So they have all these little divots on them, and then it has the little cup in the berry where things can hide, and it's hard to thoroughly rinse them.
Yeah, think about the last time you rinsed your raspberry. Did you pick up each individual one to wash down inside there? You can totally see how that would be an issue. Let's get to an email question from Charles T. Okay. Live break and then coming back to us here shortly. Charles T., sorry, we stole your thunder here. Is adding vinegar effective when washing produce? Now, Charles, we just got your answer in a roundabout way. Now I'm giving you credit for it. Good question. Safest way. We'll see if we get to that on TV. Jasmine, let's get to, I thought this was interesting. Are salad kits with no lettuce, maybe it's a salad kit with kale and broccoli, at risk?
Since we don't know what's causing the outbreak, we can't confidently say that that's safer.
Everything's at risk.
Yeah.
And we don't know a bagged salad as opposed to walking up to where the water sprays down in your grocery store. There's no safety in a bagged salad as opposed to lettuce that's just out there.
Correct.
Because
again, we don't know what the source is.
We don't know what farm, what the contamination is. I mean, I suppose that this is even possible that maybe this is happening in another country. Maybe this is something that's being shipped in and distributed nationally. Would we know that?
This is just hypothesis, but because it's so localized to the Great Lakes area at this time, it's unlikely that it's coming from outside the U.S. because we haven't seen it's been in 34 states, but it's not nationwide yet.
I guess I didn't know it was localized.
I wouldn't say localized, but the most amount of the cases are in regional. Yeah.
And I did want to, while we're here. The Ohio Department of Public Health has now put out a new, and I don't want to give bad information until they've put out a new dashboard. For those of you that are watching, they update this dashboard on Thursday afternoon at 2, and it's summary of infectious diseases in Ohio, and then they have county by county. Now, the problem is, infectious diseases could be anything. I don't want to click on Cuyahoga County and share the number because that could be anything. But I wanted to see if maybe it would break down what those infections, because they did send us a press release just as I got here that said it's now updated with cyclospora. So I'm going to have to play around with this a little more. It would obviously be easier if I was on my computer to see just exactly. We're coming back here just a minute. We'll talk about the lettuce kits. And we'll talk about the vinegar. Cool. I'll take them in a second. Yeah, we call it produce parasite. I've seen other names for it on social media that I can't repeat here because I like my job and I'd like to keep my job. I'm joined by Dr. Melissa Jenkins. She's an infectious disease expert here with MetroHealth. We've been taking a lot of questions already. Let's get to a couple more. Charles T. wrote to us on email. Is adding vinegar, because we started to hear this, is adding vinegar effective when washing produce?
It may be. We don't have proof that is any more effective than using water, but it's low risk. So there's
And the idea was that this parasite grows what you called a cyst to try and protect itself. That's why just washing in water and in pools, chlorine doesn't work because it wants to survive. Let's talk about why raspberries have such a bad reputation. You said when you studied this, this is what everybody points to. What is it about raspberries that gets a bad rap?
So part of the washing is removal of this cyst, and raspberries have all the little divots in them. They have the little cup where the water can't get down in very easily, so it makes it more prone to harboring the parasite.
We don't want to pick on raspberries because we don't know if that's it, and that's part of the process. We do think this is coming from a farm or a distribution.
Probably, yes.
Why do we think that?
Most outbreaks of cyclospora are related to one distribution system or a farm that has widespread distribution.
And you've noticed sort of there is a pattern to this. There's like sort of a collection of states.
Yeah, Michigan has had the most cases. Ohio's had a lot of cases, kind of the Great Lakes region. It's in 34 states, so it is pretty widespread, but there seems to be a concentration in that area.
Yeah, that kind of leads to this idea that there's a farm out there that's maybe distributing some stuff, and we just need to get to the bottom of it. We're going to continue to answer your questions. Go to our stream on Facebook or on the Channel 19 YouTube as we continue to answer questions with Dr. Melissa Jenkins. That's where you'll hear the majority of your questions answered, and then we'll get to a couple more here in the coming hours. All righty, good one. So we've got that, the vinegar questions out of here. The other two, you said you have a couple more. Safest way to wash my... We're clear until the 4 o'clock, so 4:04. So we've got a couple minutes. We're going to do a couple more questions, and then we'll take a break. Kind of answered the broccoli kit, salad kit question from Jasmine. Thanks for that. We have an email question from Michelle S. Does the parasite survive in water?
It does survive in water. The water, though, can wash it away from the vegetable or the produce.
But if we're talking like a pool, it would survive in water.
Yes, because chlorine doesn't kill it.
Okay.
But all of the cases have been not person to person or environmental spread. It's specifically tied to ingestion of the produce.
Can water treatment facility, there's no way you have the answer to this. Can a water treatment facility have the capacity or capability of treating it?
I don't think so, but I don't know the answer to
right.
that.
That would be a tough question. Michelle, I like where your head's at. If we could get rid of this, but I'm trying to think, at a water treatment facility, it's already too late because it's already on the produce. So we're not looking to kill it in our water system. It hasn't gotten into our water system.
Yeah.
I like where your head's at, Michelle. I see where you're asking. I see your question there. Let's get to... Was it Kathy D? Was this the other new one? Yeah, because that's for our other doctor. We kind of answered Cindy. Oh, okay, Kathy D on email. How long does it take for the parasite to leave the body?
It's different for every case. Some people, they have symptoms for 4 days or 5 days and get better. It can last some weeks, and there's some cases where people get better and then they get a relapse of the symptoms.
Nicole Versansky, when she tossed to me, she asked about, I didn't get to it. What is the relapse? Why is that happening?
So the cyst can kind of
hide?
It hides in there, and then if the cyst becomes active again, you can get a relapse.
And again, it goes back to it's trying to protect itself.
Yeah.
That's what diseases do. That's what bugs do. They're just simply trying to survive. That's how they know how to survive and thrive. So Kathy, the answer of how long does it take for the parasite to leave the body, it's different for everybody. This had me thinking, how long can I have the parasite inside me before a symptom shows up?
About 2 to 14 days.
Really? That's quite a range. And I'm assuming that's what's making this difficult.
Yeah, it's not something you ate yesterday. It's probably something you ate 2 weeks ago, which is a lot harder to pin down.
And from an FDA standpoint, now you're asking people to fill out food diaries. That's what traditionally happens in these cases. And are you going to remember everything you ate over the last 2 weeks? I mean, that's the problem. And I can see where that's. Kathy D., I like your question so much. We're going to ask that at the top of our 4. How long does it take for the parasite to leave your body? But I'm going to alter that first and ask the question, how long before symptoms show? Because I liked, the fact that it hides. That's why this is tough to find, because it could be 2 weeks. I'm assuming, is it fairly similar for E. coli and Salmonella that it takes that long?
No, people usually get sicker much quicker with those.
Really? See? Man, good question, Kathy D., because that's opened up, that's surprising, E. coli and Salmonella. And I don't like that word, Salmonella, because I don't know if it's Salmonella or, I clearly didn't spell it right. Don't look at my.
No, I think you did.
No way I spelled that right. While we're waiting for the top of our 4, or actually, should we take a, I think we missed our break window. Actually, no, we're going to chug through it. We'll do our first 2 hits at 4, and then we'll take a break. We'll have 10 or so minutes in between, unless you need a break right away.
Okay.
You're good? Let's get to another question. I think we already covered this, Cindy, is why is local produce safer than non-local? We covered that, talking about the water and that it's coming from one source. And so let's see. We've got that. Any more? Oh, we've got some air quality questions. So if you're watching, you can get your question in right now. Especially email seems to be the best way. You can email us at yourhealth@woio.com. YOURHEALTH at woio.com. Or if you're watching us on Facebook, the stream, Ashley is continuing to check that and see if we have new questions. What else do you find unique about this outbreak? And in your career, have you seen an outbreak of this size?
In my career, I don't think we've had a cyclospora outbreak, even though I've been doing this a long time. But there have been other foodborne outbreaks in my career, and either of this size or even bigger. So
interesting, and we're not going to get into the politics. I heard people talking about cuts to the FDA, and we're not going to get into that. That's for another library, not the medical library. We talked about how quickly it can come on. That's part of the problem, 2 to 14 days. And then it can be a month of this. I hate to hear that the diarrhea, that you can have multiple episodes in a day.
That is the worst symptom. And the cramping can be really bad too. So it's not just having diarrhea, it's having the uncomfortable feeling in between those
all
episodes.
The GI issues. Yeah. Very interesting. Now, you're saying some people can get through this on their own. Is that the exception, or is that?
I think that's 50-50.
Okay.
People can have a self-resolving infection. We wouldn't consider testing someone for cyclospora until they had symptoms for 3 or 4 days. And then it depends on the person and how severe the symptoms are and the risk of complications, whether they would need treatment or not.
So I can imagine, and not sure how much into treatment you are, but I imagine the ED and doctor's offices are getting tons of calls of, I had diarrhea yesterday, should I come in? What would you say to that person?
We wouldn't probably test someone until 3 or 4 days of diarrhea. So if I got that call, I would advise staying hydrated and watching things over the next 24 to 48 hours, and then calling back if the symptoms aren't any better.
Is this the kind of thing that can come on slowly, or once it hits you, it hits you?
Probably both can happen, but more likely the second, like it hits you when you're sick.
Okay. I'll ask that question because I think that's interesting. I think people think that this, is kind of like the flu. You start to feel it one day and whatever, and not quite like that. I'm sure it can be.
Yeah. I mean, there's variability in how it can present, but it's something when you have it, it's not like I ate a bad burrito. It's like this is something.
Sure. Talking about the antibiotic. Another email from Gemma S. Is it Bactrim? Wow. Is Bactrim the only antibiotic that works?
That's the one that's been studied and is proven to work the best. There aren't any great alternative drugs.
Because it doesn't happen that often. And I'm assuming you don't study a drug for an outbreak that doesn't happen that often.
True. And also, because it's a parasite, a lot of the usual antibiotics aren't effective against parasites. So,
the difference between E. coli and Salmonella, this is a parasite. What are those?
Bacteria.
Maybe we better talk about that. Well, my dissertation is getting longer by the second. These are bacterias. Is there a major difference between a bacteria and a parasite?
There are different life cycles. A bacteria is, I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit here.
That would be okay. Here on digital, that would be okay. When we're on TV, we don't have that time.
No, I don't want any weeds on a parasite generally has different forms and goes through certain stages. Like it might be in a person, then it's in a snail, then it's in a different animal, and goes through all those different life cycles. And certain ones are infectious to humans. A bacteria, it's just one form. And can produce disease either by infection or making a toxin.
I think when we come back on TV, I want to talk about really how quickly these symptoms come on, how long it can last, and we'll get into that this parasite is just trying to survive in the body, and that's why it makes it difficult. So I think we're just a minute or two away.
I think how long before symptoms show up is important for people.
That's a big one.
Too.
Yeah, we'll ask that. Yeah. That'll be the first one. How long
Okay.
before symptoms? During COVID, I learned more about COVID than I've ever. Because I would handle our daily news conference with the governor, and Dr. Amy Edwards and I were basically a daily interview every day. She was awesome. She was so generous with her time in helping us understand.
That's giving me PTSD to think
No,
about COVID.
sorry.
When you have it, you can't get it again.
Not with cyclospora, no.
That's a good question. Our photographer just asked if you've had this once, are you immune and done, or?
No, unfortunately, you could get it again.
Well, I imagine that makes everybody feel so awesome.
But it's uncommon, so you would have to also be really unlucky to come into contact with it twice.
I imagine that this just destroys you. Because you can't go to work if you're going to have multiple episodes a day. I can't imagine being a photographer out in the field. And so for those of you watching digitally, we're getting ready for our next weather hit. We've kind of answered kind of the majority of the questions so far. If you have questions, I'll remind you again, you can send us an email, yourhealth@woio.com. You can also, you're probably watching us on the Facebook stream. Get your question right down in there. Keep it polite and PC, and we'll try and get you some answers from Dr. Melissa Jenkins. Where'd you study?
I went to The Ohio State University for my medical school, and then Emory University for my residency and fellowship.
Very nice.
Right down the street from CDC.
There, wow. I went to Iowa, so I'm not a big Ohio State fan.
But we won't hold it against you. At least you're not a Wolverine.
Right. I'm not from Michigan, so. No, it's fine. There's no way that's coming through. Maybe we'll ask a question that's already been asked. Maybe people aren't, I'm not assuming anybody's sitting here watching for 3.5 straight hours. So let's get to, we're a little over a minute to TV. How do you get rid of it once you have it? We've covered that, but go over it again.
Yeah, we can.
No, for digital.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
you're fine. How do you get rid of it?
How do you get rid of it? So on the produce, washing the produce, if you're unlucky and you get infected with it, Bactrim is the best way to get rid of it. It's an antibiotic for 7 days for proven cases.
And you have to be tested. That's the best way. Get tested by your doctor.
Yeah. And the testing's important both to make sure it's the right diagnosis and to help with knowing how many cases there are and doing the investigation to find out a source.
Very good. We should be just about 30 seconds here, maybe a little less. Jim, our air doctor, is not here yet, so we may keep Jenkins, Dr. Jenkins, for the second hit. Here we go. Yeah, that's the way to put it. We're here in the library at MetroHealth. I'm joined by Dr. Melissa Jenkins, as we have been all afternoon, and will continue to be. Let's get to a couple more questions. This one from Kathy. We're going to alter this just a little bit. How long before symptoms show up? And that's part of the problem here.
So it can be as short as 2 days, as long as 14 days.
And why does that present a problem?
So if we're looking for a source and we think it's coming from food, it's hard to remember what you ate 2 weeks ago. So it's more difficult to pinpoint out of all those things what the source could have been.
And that's part of tracking this is you fill out a food diary. What did you have for lunch yesterday, 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago? Heck, I have no idea what I had 2 weeks ago.
Exactly.
Let's then go to her actual question from Kathy D. How long does it take for the parasite to then leave the body?
It's different for everybody. In some people, the illness resolves on its own without any treatment. In more prolonged cases, antibiotics can treat the infection, and they're given for 7 days.
And you said in some cases, and Nicole asked us about this earlier, it can go away and you can have a reoccurrence. What's going on there?
So the symptoms can get better because the cyclospora lives in a cyst. That cyst can start off a new infection after the symptoms go away.
And we were talking about that cyst. It's sort of protecting itself. The parasite is in your body. Its one job is to make you sick and for it to survive. And so that's why it can hide in the body. It's trying to protect itself, and it can come on again. I feel really bad for people who have it come back.
Yes.
And talk about treatment. It is treatable. We're talking about a simple antibiotic.
Correct. It's treatable with trimethoprim sulfamethoxazole, commonly known as Bactrim, and it's a 7-day treatment course.
That's not bad at all. If you have questions, we want to hear from you. Go to our live stream on our Facebook page or on our YouTube, or you can email us questions. Your Health. We created a whole new email just for this. yourhealth@woio.com. Ashley from our digital desk is making sure we get to your questions. Most of the questions will be answered on our digital platforms. We can only get to a couple here on Channel 19, but we'll continue that discussion, and we'll see you back here at Metro Health in a bit. There we go. Clear. I'm going to text them. We are going to take a bit of a break here. For those of you watching on our digital platforms, we're going to take a little bit of a break. You're going to hear our audio cut out here shortly. team here pretty quick, so stand by for us. I'm first going to ask you, how do we track down where this is coming from? And is this taking too long, or stand by? And our doctor from the emergency department has not quite made it to talk about the air quality, so we're going to continue on our conversation about cyclospora. Let's talk about the source, and that's what the FDA and everybody is trying to figure out. How does this work? What's the work they're doing to try and figure out where this is coming from?
So part of it is interviewing cases and taking a thorough diet history of everything they've eaten in the last 2 weeks. The second part is doing some diagnostics to look to see whether it's the same strain in all of the cases, and that can help to match up to see whether it's from one source or maybe more than one source.
So that goes back to when somebody gets tested, it's a stool sample, and now you said those are being analyzed and compared, like in the state of Ohio. What can that tell you?
It can tell whether they're related to one source of an outbreak or potentially more than one source, or unrelated cases.
In your expertise, do we think this is one source, this is one vegetable or one berry, or do we know yet?
I think it's too early to say. Based on the past outbreaks of cyclospora, it's probably one, but it could be a farm that grows multiple different produce.
And that was the next question, is this taking too long? Should we know by now?
It's a very tedious process to do all these investigations. One of the problems with cyclospora is it can be 2 weeks before someone shows symptoms. So it's a greater number of investigations that have to be done into what they do.
Because I think everybody is kind of sitting here saying, what do I eat, what do I not eat, why don't we know yet? And you're saying when it comes to E. coli cases of salmonella, this is how it plays out, unfortunately.
It takes some time and good detective work.
Excellent. As I said, we are expecting an emergency room doctor to join us to talk about the air quality. We've got some questions that have come in about that as well. If you want to send us an email about the smoke in the air, do that. We have created a special email just for this. It is yourhealth, YOURHEALTH, at WOIO.com. So yourhealth at WOIO.com. And again, we're answering the majority of these questions on our stream, continuous stream on our Facebook page and on the Cleveland 19 YouTube page. But we'll check back in with you in a few minutes, and we'll see if we can get that emergency room doctor. They're very busy. We're not cutting into their time. Alrighty, he's on his way. That's good news. Another question? Excellent. On the parasite. I feel like a Jeopardy host, and to see if I can trip you up. Larry has got a Facebook question. Larry L., thanks for this question. What were the origins of the parasite in the past?
So raspberries are the classic one. There's been several outbreaks associated with raspberries. To be honest, I don't know what other produce have been implicated in the past ones, but raspberries are the classic ones. I think there was one in strawberries.
So
in the past
this may be just a really not smart question. Where does this parasite hang out while it's dormant, and then all of a sudden it just comes on? Or is it sort of like a chemistry, a mixture of things that have to come together to create the parasite?
Like most things in medicine, it is a perfect storm of the setup, the parasite being at the right place at the right time, and getting into a place where it shouldn't be.
Like a water supply.
Like a water supply.
Very interesting. And again, that comes from an animal and an animal got into the water supply, or it could be anything from there. Let's get to some of the questions, because maybe people haven't been watching us the entire time. We'll get to some of our past questions. Are children affected any differently than adults, or are older people affected any differently?
The symptoms are basically the same: diarrhea, abdominal cramping, loss of appetite, possibly nausea. As far as I know, there's no difference in severity between younger people and older people. It's more related to what your other medical problems are.
And sometimes that does pop up. We see things are, RSV is more in kids than it is, but that's not the case here.
No.
Equal opportunity parasite. That's great. Love that. We love when it's. How quickly in the past have outbreaks been identified, from Chris and Canton?
It does take a while because of all the investigations, the interviews that need to be done with people who are affected, the molecular testing that has to be done to prove that it's from one source. So it can take some weeks before we get an answer, sometimes longer.
And where are we in this outbreak? Are we 2-3 weeks in?
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the challenge with this, as opposed to some other things, is because that incubation period is so long, it's harder to pinpoint what in the last 2 weeks that someone ate could be the culprit.
So this is 2 to 14 days. You could have eaten something 2 weeks ago. Is there anything else that's comparable? Is there any other illness that takes that long to show up?
Diarrhea illnesses, or illnesses
just in general?
There are some other, like hepatitis viruses, you may not show symptoms for 2 to 3 months after you're exposed. So,
what's the flu? What does the flu normally take?
The flu is usually 2 to 4 days.
2 to 4
after
days.
Exposure, yeah.
So, I mean, we can all think about, you've been around somebody that was sneezing, whether you're on a plane or in the office, and you catch that cold or the flu within a matter of day or two. So that's more. Let's reiterate, this has been no person-to-person transmission. That's major.
Yes, that's correct.
And this isn't. Is this the kind of parasite that can change to where it could be that, or we think that that's not going to happen here?
Probably not going to happen. Parasites are not known for doing things like that. Viruses are the big culprits when it comes to mutating and changing to avoid everything that we're throwing at them.
Okay, and we kind of covered that as far as everything we throw at them. You can't build immunity to this.
Correct.
You get it once, but then again, your exposure to this twice would be pretty rare.
Correct.
Excellent. Let's see. You have another one?
I have one new one.
Oh, a new one? We'll take it. Email, so Marty C., hope you're watching. What other antibiotics can be treated with if allergic to Bactrim?
That's a good question. Thank you for that one. Bactrim's the most effective and the only one that's been proven to be effective. If it's a severe case and someone has an allergy to sulfa or Bactrim, they're in the same class, there is a desensitization process that can go through if the case is severe. A lot of people will get rid of Cyclospora without any treatment. So unless it was a severe case, we probably wouldn't go the route of desensitizing someone to Bactrim.
Geez, that sounds like a lot. Like, I'm dealing with this diarrhea issue, and now you're going to try and get me
not allergic to
to this. That doesn't sound fun.
That's why it would be reserved for severe cases.
Yeah. And what would this? I hate even asking. What is a severe case of this? What are we talking?
Being in the hospital, usually the things that would lead to hospitalization would be severe dehydration, having your electrolytes out of balance because of the diarrhea, possibly kidney failure related to diarrhea or dehydration.
And what is it about kidney failure? What is it that diarrhea impacts your kidneys? Why? What is that an issue?
It's because of getting dehydrated.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not the diarrhea itself that causes the kidney trouble. It's being dehydrated can put a stress on the kidneys.
Let's see. Excuse me. I like this one. This was from Mark C. Are the symptoms all or nothing? Meaning, are there degrees of symptoms?
There are degrees of symptoms, and it, again, has to do with someone's other underlying medical conditions. If someone has immunocompromise, such as cancer, chemotherapy, the symptoms may tend to be more severe.
I can't imagine having to be going through this with doses of chemo. Let's see. Our next one's at 33. Probably should have taken a break. I think we will. Boy, I'm just. After your 33 hit, the 448 hit is going to be with Dr. Escajeda. So after the 33 hit here in a minute, here in 8 minutes, we'll cut you loose for a couple minutes. But we're getting there. What are we, halfway there? No, we're not even close to Jeez. That's the other problem for me is I'm normally off at 5:30, so to have to stretch this out for another hour is going to be rough. If you're watching at home, we're clearly caught up. We'd like some more questions. You can put the questions on the stream on Facebook or email us at yourhealth@woio.com. YOURHEALTH @woio.com. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you think we need to be covering?
I think we've made all of the important points. I can recap them. Wash produce for at least a minute.
Does hot water, cold water, does that matter?
Doesn't matter.
Because you're not going to be able to get it hot enough to kill it. That's what we've learned.
Yes, if you can boil something, then it will. But most people don't boil their fresh raspberries and strawberries.
Your salad.
Right, your salad. So I think that's an important point. The second important point that you've brought up a few times is there's no person-to-person transmission that we know of. It's really from eating something that's contaminated. And then the third, I think, important point is this is something that lasts for days. So if you just have one day of diarrhea, it's unlikely that that is cyclospora.
Those are all the major points. I see our other doctor. We're going to use him at 4:48. So if you have questions about the smoke and the conditions for the wildfire smoke, we're going to have, a different expert coming up to answer those questions in about, looks like about 18 minutes. So we'll get to that. We'll have one more hit with Dr. Jenkins. I think we've covered it. Will you be surprised, and we're not going to name any restaurants or chains, will you be surprised or not surprised if this comes down to be a particular restaurant?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was discovered in a restaurant, but that restaurant gets their produce from somewhere. So it wouldn't necessarily be the restaurant that was the source.
Right.
It would be wherever they sourced their products from.
Yeah, no, yeah, totally. It wouldn't be that restaurant's problem because they were just using somebody's produce that they have bought for years. And, yeah, we've seen those in the past. The one that comes to mind is Chili's, and that effectively did in that franchise. I can't remember what the outbreak was with Chili's, but you're not even old enough to know what Chili's is. So yeah, I remember the Chili's outbreak, and that's, I think that was tomatoes. I think is what.
I think you're right.
I think that was. And why do we see it so much with tomatoes and lettuce?
That people eat those raw, and lettuce is kind of difficult to wash. So,
yeah, you get a head of lettuce that's.
Yeah.
You know what? That's going to be one. You know what? Let's talk about that on our next one. We'll ask why lettuce and why tomatoes do we see this so often? I don't know why I'm yawning all of a sudden. Yeah, lettuce, tomatoes, raspberries. Terrible. See, that's why I stay away from all of them. I eat nothing but steak. That's the way to go. Does steam kill the parasite, both in cooking and cleaning? That was from Tammy S. That's an interesting question.
So you probably can't get the steam hot enough to kill the parasite. It has to be 165. So boiling something is effective. Just steaming it probably won't get the internal temperature of whatever you're cooking.
Yeah, so if
high
somebody
enough.
thought they would take a colander and, steam their raspberries, it's still going to impact your raspberries. You're right, it's not going to get hot enough
Correct.
on the inside.
Yeah.
Steamed lettuce is generally not on the menu.
I wouldn't want to eat that.
The steamed lettuce. And then we'll go back to Jasmine's questions for those who didn't see it maybe the first time around, asking about salad kits. Are salad kits better than maybe just the regular lettuce?
So since we don't know what the source is, salad kits are just as risky. Even if it doesn't have lettuce in there, we don't know that the source isn't kale or broccoli or some other produce that's also in the kit.
And even a lot of those salad kits say they're pre-washed, that's not a safe bet either.
It's still recommended that you wash it again, especially during an outbreak situation. If it's pre-washed at the same place where it was harvested, they could potentially be using the same water source to wash it.
Can I ask if you have changed anything in
I have
your
not.
your day-to-day?
I'm still eating raspberries, still eating blueberries, still eating salad.
You're just washing them like you always do.
Yes.
Go figure.
Washing a little longer than usual.
There you go. I think we're just a minute or two away. I think we just got into weather, and then we'll come back.
Which question are we doing?
Why lettuce? Why tomatoes?
Okay, yes.
So often in the outbreak, and I might ask about the bag lettuce question.
Yeah.
2 minutes out. 2 minutes. Again, if you're watching us digitally, thank you for joining us. You can get your questions in. If you're watching on Facebook, type in the questions. Ashley is monitoring those. You can email questions in at yourhealth@woio.com. We've gotten several questions so far. All the rest right now are air quality. We will get to those. So this is air. This is air. This is air. And this is air. So after this, you only have 1, 2, 3 left.
Okay.
That's it. And in fact, after this, I don't need you back until 5:06. So if you want to go run, get some raspberries, get a head of lettuce, and just sit here and eat a head of lettuce. We laugh, but I can't imagine having this.
Right, yeah.
There have been some try to be comical memes out there of, this is a instant 15-pound weight loss diet. That's not recommended.
Not the way to lose weight.
Not recommended. Stand by. Yeah, joined again by Dr. Melissa Jenkins. You can see the questions that we've been getting to, and we'll tell you again coming up how to get your questions in. Let's get to some of the culprits that we've seen. E. coli, salmonella outbreaks in the past always seem to have to do with lettuce, tomatoes, you mentioned raspberries. What is it about those that are so susceptible?
So they're all things that we tend to eat raw and not cooked, and things that are difficult to wash. With raspberries, we talked about earlier, having the little divots and the little cup that's difficult to clean out. Lettuce can be difficult to rinse, all the little nooks and crannies. So I think those are often why those are implicated.
I mean, you get a whole head of lettuce that has the leaves wrapped up in it. Okay, so somebody's going to say, oh, I'll protect my family. I'm just going to go get the bagged lettuce, and it's going to say that it's pre-washed on that. That's not a guarantee here.
It is not a guarantee, and it is recommended that even if it says pre-washed, to still do your own washing as well. And remember, we don't know what the source of this outbreak is yet, so the bagged lettuce is just as risky as the head lettuce.
And when it comes to, we talked about this earlier, we heard tips early in the outbreak using vinegar. Your response to that?
It wouldn't hurt, but there's no scientific evidence to prove that that's better than just using a longer wash with water, at least 1 minute.
We can get to, let's see, one of our questions here from Marty C. He said, this is interesting. We talked about the one antibiotic that's being used now is Bactrim. What other antibiotics can be treated, you can be treated with if you're allergic to Bactrim? And this is from Marty C.
So Bactrim is a sulfa drug, and lots of people are a little allergic to it. Unfortunately, there's no other alternative drug that's effective. If it was a severe case of cyclospora, there are ways that we can desensitize someone to that antibiotic.
But you said that's pretty extreme. That would have to be an extreme case.
An extreme case, for sure.
Excellent. Dr. Jenkins, again, coming up in our next hit here, we're going to have an emergency room doctor talk about our air quality. We're going to sort of turn this into two topics into one as we are here live at MetroHealth. You can get your questions in at yourhealth@woio.com or go to our stream on Facebook right now and you can get your questions in live. We'll have a lengthy conversation with Dr. Escajeda, and that'll be coming up. Excellent. You are clear for now.
Thank you.
So go get some raspberries.
All right, I think I'm going to do a little bit of email out in the lobby.
I'm going to take your mic, though, because he's going to use that same one. Thank you. Dr. Escajeda, I think we're ready for you. Doctor, I'm going to have you sit right here for me. I'm Dan DeRose. It's nice to meet you. I'm kind of tethered in here.
Hey,
Nice to meet you, sir. I'm going to have you sit right there. Actually, I'm going to give you this first. Let's put that in your pocket. I get us tangled up here. And before you zip up, we're going to hide this cord. Now you can zip that back up if that works.
Yeah.
So we are live already on, we're streaming this whole thing because we're getting questions in as we go, and we've
Great.
gotten
One for parasite and then
one for
the other.
parasite, and then these are parasite live on countertops. If so, for how long? That's a good question. So yeah, we've been getting a lot of questions in for both topics. We had no idea that this was going to evolve into that, but no idea that we were going to wake up and see this level of smoke today. Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda, pronouncing that correctly?
Correct, yes.
And you're an emergency room doctor, but you've also got some other titles.
I am currently the medical director for Cleveland Department of Public Safety. So I oversee the medical care delivered by Cleveland EMS and
Oh, wow.
fire and police.
So I'm assuming EMS has been getting calls today. Today was really the first day we saw it this bad. What has today been like?
It's been busy. I would say here, I just got out of the emergency department. We're seeing the anticipated patient presentations that we would expect, a lot of respiratory sort of complaints that have come in.
So somebody comes in and says what?
They're short of breath, the air feels heavy, some irritation symptoms like eye irritation, throat irritation, things like that as well.
And we have to remember, not everybody has air conditioning. So
Correct.
it's not like everybody can just shut their windows and their front doors and keep out. That's probably a lot of what we're seeing here.
It is, yeah. And even if you have like a window air conditioning unit, those typically don't filter, at least filter the particle size that is heavy in the atmosphere right now.
I didn't even consider that. Is there a way to, other than turning it off?
So, HEPA filters, if you have the ability to have a HEPA filter, placed into your air conditioning, your not necessarily window units, but if you have internal air conditioning,
Sure.
there are some options to recirculate the air instead of like it coming in from the outside. Some air conditioning units for central air have that capability, which would be preferred in the atmosphere that we're in right now. But
Let's get to some of our questions. Sure. Latrina has been very busy. Our first one, how dangerous is the air quality from the wildfires? I'm sure that kind of varies on person to person.
It does. So with a lot of other environmental illnesses, including air quality, there's sort of the two populations of patients that we consider at risk mostly, and that's the very young and the very old. Similar with like heat illness and cold illness, but also if you have certain comorbidities or medical conditions that put you at increased risk, such as
Yes,
lung
Jim.
disease.
Yeah, Jim, I can hear you. Whose mic is cutting in and out? His or mine? His is cutting in and out, they're saying. Mike is saying it sounds
What
good in
about
his
now?
ear.
He moved it up a little bit.
Mic check.
No, that shouldn't be an issue. We'll continue to have a conversation. Let us know. Mike is saying he's hearing it clear in his earpiece.
I mean, the level's a little lower, but it's
Okay.
speak up.
Sounds good.
Yeah, there you go.
So we were talking about
Comorbidities, yep.
right, morbidities. That's somebody who's got
An
asthma,
underlying
COPD.
condition, particularly lung issues or heart issues. Currently the most prominent would be underlying lung issues such as asthma or COPD.
And what is it about the particles? That if I have asthma, what is physically what's happening?
So these particle sizes are just very small compared to kind of the normal allergens and other things that are in our atmosphere that we're breathing in all the time. So I use this as an example. We're talking about particle sizes that are less than 2.5 micrometers. And whenever you have particles that are that small, they can get very deep down into your lungs. And it's not filtered out by, your upper airways, your nose hairs and things like that. And so it just allows those particles to get deeper into the lung tissue, which causes the problem.
So once it gets down there, it's attaching to, we all seen the diagrams, you have those little sort of cotton-looking things all over your lungs. It's attaching and doing what?
It just increases the inflammation response, basically. So if you have an underlying inflammatory condition of your lungs, such as asthma or COPD, it may just be a lower threshold of tipping you over the edge to have you have worsening breathing problems.
And then we've been hearing in the advice is these N95 masks. It's not the cloth masks that we associate with COVID. It's not the blue sort of paper ones.
Right.
What is an N95 mask? Why is it so different?
N95 filters smaller particles, so small enough where it can actually filter, some sort of like viral and bacterial pathogens or other occupational dust. That's why you see a lot of people who work in occupations where you're exposed to dust, wear N95s because the filtering capability is much greater than with a general surgical mask that you can buy at like a drugstore or grocery store or a cloth mask.
And again, what I'm hearing is it's the fact that these particles are so fine that is the problem here.
Yep, they're just very small particles that we're just, and these particles are out there everywhere, right? So we're usually able to handle them whenever they're in lower concentrations, but it's just such a high concentration of them with the amount of wildfire smoke that we're exposed to.
So this is smaller than like pollen. This is smaller than like the cottonwood that makes us all that stuff.
Correct.
Way
Yep.
smaller.
Way smaller. Yep.
Wow. Here's a question from Jeanette Q, an email. She said, can smoke cause headaches from prolonged exposure?
It can. Yep. It certainly can.
What's happening there? Is it just an irritation?
Mainly an irritation. It certainly doesn't get to the level where it's decreasing your oxygen level. You know, if your brain is starved of oxygen, then that can cause headache symptoms sometimes. It's not really to that extent. It's more of the inflammation that's occurring.
So you said you are the head of health for EMS.
Correct. Cleveland EMS, medical director for Cleveland Department of Public Safety.
Have you been in touch with them today? Mm-hmm. What are they seeing? Are they picking up patients? Is it a matter of just getting them oxygen?
In some cases, the easiest treatment option is just getting out of the outside, going indoors, going into a vehicle, closing your windows, making sure that if you have the ability to recirculate your internal air on your central air conditioner, that you're using that setting, plus or minus a HEPA filter. If you're out in the atmosphere, like our first responders and our EMS clinicians have to work outside, as do many other people in our city, just making sure that you have the appropriate protection. My recommendation would be an N95 mask. I know it's super comfortable and it's hot and it makes you sweat, but it is the preferred method.
Those seem to be the options. Stay inside, and is it N or M95?
N95.
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 Okay.
Yep.
That's the important part. I think we answered that. How dangerous is the air quality from the wildfires? Where do you buy N95 masks?
You can get them at drugstores. You can get them at different hardware stores as well too.
Like
since
a Home
lot
Depot
of people,
or a Lowe's or
right,
something.
Right.
Because those are people that are using sanders. They're dealing with dust particles. That's why that's such a good mask.
Exactly.
Very smart. So for all of our viewers that are watching, if you have any questions, we're 1 minute away, Doctor. Dr. Escajeda is going to be here. We're going to switch off and on because we literally, when we planned this, we had no idea that this smoke issue was going to come back up. So we're going to be talking with both Dr. Melissa Jenkins on the cyclospora side of things and Dr. Escajeda on the smoke and air quality type issues. So, Doctor, we're about a minute away. For those of you that are watching on our streaming, you can email us questions at yourhealth@woio.com. You can also get on the stream on Facebook. Put your question in the bottom. We've got Ashley who's monitoring questions coming in both via email and on Facebook. So get us in your questions. It's not often you have access to experts when we're dealing with these health issues that just seem to kind of pop up over the last couple of weeks. So get those in, and you'll hear our question and answer segment here coming up on Channel 19 in another minute or two. So we'll just probably go over a lot of the same questions that we just did.
Sounds good.
I'm going to hit, you're the medical director or health director?
Medical director of Cleveland Department of Public Safety and some other area agencies.
Yeah, and we had no idea when we set this up to talk about cyclospora that smoke was going to be this bad. And the conditions outside, and I spoke with Dr. David Margolius, he's the director of the Cuyahoga County, or the Cleveland Department of Public Health today, that the conditions today are worse than they were back in 2003. The particle count is really high. Dr. Escajeda, Jeremiah Escajeda, works in the emergency department, just got finished on shift. Talk to me about the emergency room today. What were you seeing?
With summer comes higher patient volumes across the board. So we're seeing our expected higher patient volumes in general for a lot of different things. Here today, because of the conditions that we're dealing with and the propensity to have respiratory complaints, we're definitely seeing a handful of respiratory complaints as well too.
So it's generally the people that have asthma or COPD or an underlying condition that are having problems. Talk to me about why this is so different than maybe a busy day of pollen in the spring. What is it about these particles and this smoke that's different?
That's a good question. The size and the inflammation that they're causing.
So these particles are smaller, you're saying. How much smaller than just pollen?
That's a good question. I have to look specifically, but just to give you like a size comparison, so the width of a human hair is about 70 micrometers, and so we're talking about particles that are less than 2.5 micrometers.
So way thinner than a piece of hair.
Yeah, the smallest of the small, and that just allows those particles to travel deeper into your lungs.
And that's sticking to your lungs, and what's that doing?
It's increasing the inflammation response that's going on in your alveoli, which are the little tiny sacs of air in your lungs that are responsible for
breathing,
for
getting
breathing,
you oxygen.
right? For getting you oxygen from your, exactly.
Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda, he's going to join us and stay with us on our digital feed. We've been live now for a few hours and we'll continue to be through our 6:30 on both topics, the cyclospora, the breathing problems. We've got all your questions here. You can email us, yourhealth@woio.com, or go to the stream. That's where you're going to see the majority of these questions answered. Our Facebook page, Cleveland 19, or go to our YouTube page and watch the stream there. But for now, we're live at Metro. Dan DeRose, 19 News. Excellent. We're going to continue our conversation here. And then just for your reference, here's how we're going to break this down. We're
Sure.
coming up at 5 o'clock, so we'll go back to cyclo here, and then you'll be there.
Okay.
And you'll be there, and you'll be there. So
Okay.
we won't tie up all your time. I know you put in a long day.
Oh, it's okay.
When somebody comes into the emergency room, assuming via an ambulance, that means that person's really struggling. What does that look like in a situation where they've been out in this, they don't have air conditioning? What does that look like when they come in? They're really struggling.
If you have underlying asthma or COPD, there's a spectrum of how severe your baseline asthma or COPD is. If you have an oxygen requirement at baseline, so, people who require continuous flow of nasocannula oxygen, you're probably going to be impacted quicker and more severely, just given the particles that we kind of discussed about. So just getting somebody out of the outside is usually enough to help making them feel a little bit better.
The emergency department, I'm assuming, has pretty good air and circulation, and it's
On most days, yeah.
and it's cool. That's probably another big part of this. Is
Exactly.
the temperature probably doesn't help in this
It does
situation.
not. Yeah, so the humidity obviously is going to make breathing problems a little bit more challenging as well too. So the heat is not helping the situation.
If a child has asthma, is this the same type of problems, or could this actually be worse?
I would consider it on the same spectrum. So, if you have a child who has asthma, you just want to be very careful that you are minimizing their time outside today.
What would this present differently in a child with asthma? Will it hit them harder, sooner, faster?
It may hit them sooner and faster, and this may be the trigger. So anytime we have somebody who has an asthma flare or what we call an exacerbation. There's usually a trigger. Sometimes it's somebody, every time I get a cold in the winter, my asthma flares up. This may be that trigger, and your child, or if you have asthma or COPD, may experience that trigger, just not knowing or not expecting this to be that trigger.
Is this inhaler territory? Is that going to help?
It certainly can. And I'd follow your child's or your own doctor's recommendations as far as how frequently you should use your rescue inhaler. But it certainly, you may find yourself using your rescue inhaler more so than you would on other days.
What if it's not working? It's the child.
Call 911.
Oh, really?
Yeah, or seek emergency department care.
This can get to that level.
It can, yeah. Anytime we have patients who are complaining of shortness of breath, particularly if you have an underlying history of pulmonary disease or heart disease, then you shouldn't ignore shortness of breath. We'd consider that a severe symptom that would warrant emergency department or 911 care if you can't get to an emergency department via private vehicle.
Now, I know we have you to talk about the air quality and breathing issues, but are you seeing cyclospora in the emergency room?
I have not had several shifts in a few days, so This is my first shift after a couple of days off.
Okay.
But I have not knowingly that I've actively tested for.
And I'm assuming people with cyclospora, they've had diarrhea, that they're going to a doctor's office, maybe not rushing into an emergency room.
Presumably, yeah, presumably. Although, we are seeing patients who present with diarrhea complaints to our emergency departments.
Okay, makes sense. I think we need to swap out. We've got a couple of minutes. What else should people be keeping in mind? I'm a relatively mildly healthy individual. Going home and mowing the yard tonight, is that a good idea, or just...
I would say if you can avoid outdoor activities, particularly strenuous outdoor activities today, then that would be best. You can try an N95 if you have one, and you can get one. That would be preferred. But today is just not the day to be doing strenuous exercise outside.
That sounds pleasant, mowing my yard with an N95 mask on.
Yeah, not exactly. The heat's not on our side.
Yeah.
Right?
Will this stick around? Will this fall to the ground, and will it get kicked back up? Like if we know this is going to blow out Friday, and then I'm sure rain will help. But is it the kind of thing that it could stick around and get kicked up?
Not necessarily get kicked up, but it's going to likely disperse over the next day or so, hopefully, and just move to other parts of the world or get diluted in our atmosphere.
We really need some rain. That would knock this all out.
Rain should help. Yeah, rain should help.
We're going to swap you doctors out.
Sounds good.
You are phenomenal. Thanks for sticking around. You've got to be exhausted.
No. I'm good.
One of my first interviews on the topic of COVID was Dr. Margolius.
Oh, yeah?
He got nominated to be the media person for Metro.
Yeah, he did. I was doing the social media at that time. I had condom and doing that, so it was so hard to get.
Oh, was it you who did it?
Yeah, because a lot of our infectious disease people, they were swamped all the time. So, we had him on here.
Doctor, we're going to have you.
Go-to for that.
We're going to get you mic'd back up. You've got it now. That will not be an infectious disease. Did we get some more? Oh, that's a good question. You know what? I think we're going to... We have to remember we're resetting here, so this is a 5 o'clock audience, so the people who are watching us at 3 are not still watching. Anybody who is watching 2.5 hours in.
I do sometimes.
Wow, look at you.
Not on the Facebook,
Super
but
fan.
on the newscast. I'm like, I think I've seen this story.
So you
2
are a
times
19
before.
fan.
I do like Channel 19. That's the one I watch.
Look at that. Good stuff. Oh, what question should we get back to? I think we'll go back to the question. And for those of you watching us, you're seeing some behind the scenes stuff here. I think we discovered that really kind of the question about how long does it take to show up and why that has presented so many problems. I think that's been the most fascinating for me anyway, about why this is different from E. coli and salmonella. So let's do that. Let's start. I'm going to start the question with, hey, we've seen E. coli outbreaks, salmonella outbreaks in the past. Why is this different? And you can launch into, really has to do with how quickly it shows up in a person.
Will this be the TV or the?
This will be TV. We're still on with our digital, but we're pretty close with our TV hit. Actually, 5:06. We've got a few minutes, but for those who are watching, we've done this one before, but let's ask this: can you have a mild case, or are all infections severe? Is there a way to be tested? We'll get to the first part of that. Are all cases the same? Can you have mild? Can you have severe? Does it just hit you?
You can have varying degrees of cases. Usually, you're going to know that you're sick with something out of the ordinary, but the degree of the symptoms is variable. And that in part depends on what your other medical problems are, how severe you might be manifesting the symptoms.
This is a professional topic, and unfortunately it's graphic. When it comes to diarrhea, there is clearly a difference here from just a case of diarrhea, something didn't agree with you, and cyclospora. Walk us through what the difference usually is here.
It's subtle differences, but you will probably notice more cramping and just an overall feeling of being unwell as opposed to just having an upset stomach.
Okay.
And the degree of the diarrhea is more often and possibly more explosive. But I wouldn't say that it's necessarily that different from other causes of infectious diarrhea, like norovirus is also pretty bad.
Okay. That's good to know. So that's such a pleasant topic. That's why you're a doctor and I'm a journalist, because I'm not messing with any of that. We did that one. Let's get back to that one. Am I safer eating frozen fruits and vegetables?
So because we don't know what the source is, those same frozen fruits could have come from the place that was the source. So unfortunately, freezing doesn't kill the cyclospora, so that could still be contaminated. If it's a frozen vegetable that you're going to boil, then that's safe.
And again, the source of this and why it's so important to find out which farm or which distributor this is coming from is because somebody is clearly doing something wrong in the food chain, or at least the way this food is produced. What is the general culprit that we've seen in the past with E. coli and salmonella?
It's usually some break in practice. It might be unintentional on the part of the farm. They don't know that their filtration system has a leak or something like that. But there's some break that allows contamination of either a water supply that's being used to water the crops, or some other way that it's getting into. It could be in production, like putting it into the bag, something in that process. So
it's not necessarily just when the lettuce is watered or the tomatoes are watered. It could be the bagging process. It could be the machine is dirty. It could be anything like that.
Yeah, and like I said, it could be unintentional. They may not know there's a problem until someone comes in and does an investigation and able to correct
As we're just talking here, can you think back to like a really bad E. coli or really bad salmonella outbreak?
I can't think of a specific one, to be honest.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, a lot of them are very regional in location too, so it might be something that only happens in a fast food restaurant in California, for instance, that I wouldn't necessarily know about except in hindsight.
And that's what makes this a little bit more unique, because we are dealing with 34 states here. This isn't just, one restaurant that gets their lettuce from farm X.
Sure, exactly.
It will be interesting. From an educational standpoint, are you curious? Like, is there the doctor education side of you that's like curious to find out what this was or why it was?
And I'm confident that we will figure it out. It just takes time and lots of good detective work.
I like that. I forgot what I was going to ask you when we go to TV here, because we just so many good topics. We've seen in the past E. coli. Why is this different? Then I am going to ask you that question there. Are you curious to find out? Yeah. That'll be interesting. I think we're close here. Jenny, are we close? Can you hear me? Jenny, can you hear me? For those of you watching on our streaming, feel free to get us in your questions. We will have Dr. S. Cajeda back to talk about the air quality. So get us your questions in now. If you're watching on Facebook, leave your comment at the bottom. We'll pull those. If you're watching maybe on YouTube, you can always email us at yourhealth@woio.com, and we'll take your questions from there as well. Majority of the questions getting answered here, but we use a couple of them for television. We're waiting for our hit here in the next minute or two on channel 19. So we're going to take a quick pause while we wait for that. In fact, I think we will pause our coverage after this hit, and we'll bring Dr. 1 minute out. Thank you, Jenny. Dr. Escade's sound is running right now with our reporter that worked with him today. That's funny. Got a buddy of mine that owns a big roofing company. I'm assuming they had to have cut bait today. There's no way. Stand by. Yeah, we're getting a ton of questions. We'll let you know how to submit your questions. I'm sitting here with Dr. Melissa Jenkins. She's an infectious disease expert. We're in the library of MetroHealth. We've been doing some light reading in between our hits here. Doctor, let's talk about the difference between, we've seen E. coli outbreaks and salmonella, and it generally happens when a farm is watering the produce with dirty water. Why is this a little bit different? Now, we don't know the source yet. We'll get to that in a bit, but the difference between E. coli, salmonella, and now cyclospora.
So the other two are bacteria. Cyclospora is a parasite. That's one difference. Cyclospora also has a very long incubation period, which is the time between exposure and when someone starts to get sick.
And what is that?
It can be from 2 to 14 days with an average of about 7 days. So people could be exposed a long time before they start showing symptoms.
And that's part of the problem of tracking this down. Why?
One of the main ways that we track down what it could be is asking patients who have the disease to write a list of everything they've eaten. It's a lot harder to look back 2 weeks to see what someone's eaten than it is to look back 2 or 3 days.
And we talk about the importance of washing the fruits and vegetables. It's not always so easy, and we were talking about this earlier. You said while you were studying infectious diseases, when it came to Cyclospora, they always talked about raspberries. Why?
They're hard to wash. They have all the little divots where Cyclospora can hide. It has that little cup in the raspberry that's difficult to clean, so it makes it the perfect setup to harbor the
lettuce
parasite.
is the same way, whether it's a head of lettuce where maybe that parasite has gotten down in there. We're talking about tracking this down. You're fine. We were talking about tracking this down. You talked about this may not be a farmer or a producer, that this isn't on purpose.
Correct. There may be some break in the process that the farm or the company doesn't even know about.
Yeah.
That's only identified when someone comes in and does a thorough inspection.
Something got into the water, something got in the bagging process. What we want to have more of your questions. Go to the Facebook, the Cleveland 19 Facebook page. You can put your question in the stream or email us at yourhealth@woio.com. We've got a digital team here. We're working on those questions. You can see we're getting to a lot of them, but the best way to see your questions answered is on our live stream on Cleveland 19 on our Facebook page. We'll be back from Metro soon. Say it again. Jenny, you know the breathing one will be next, right? The air quality. Mike, killer mics. For those watching digitally, hold on. We're going to take a quick break while we swap out our doctors, and then we'll be right back with more answers to the air quality questions you've been sending in. To watch us on our digital channels here, our YouTube channel, Facebook page. We've swapped out our doctors again. Dr. Melissa Jenkins, she's an incredible expert on all things cyclospora. Not sure that's something you want to be an expert in, but it dictates. We're now joined by Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda. He is not only emergency room doctor here for Metro Hospital, also the medical director for the Cleveland Department of Environmental Safety, which this absolutely falls under.
For, just the Department of Public Safety.
Department of Public Safety.
Public Safety,
right.
Yep. So EMS, fire, and police.
So EMS, yeah, there you go. That's a big one. Yeah, just the EMS factor alone, I imagine, is that enough? Or once they're in an ambulance, once they're in the EMS, do they have to come in, or are you able to get them in the EMS, get them sort of treated?
We generally like to transport all the patients who, we determine are sick enough to get into the ambulance. If you're an adult.
Give me just a second.
Sure.
Here. Wow, jogging in this with this weather, that conditions out there. Not sure that would be safe. We'll get to Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda, not only the emergency room doctor here at MetroHealth, but also the medical director for the Cleveland Department of Public Safety, which includes EMS and fire, what they're dealing with today. Let's get to that. Tiffany just asked before we get to some of our other questions. Somebody was jogging today that she saw. Is that a good idea, even if you're the healthiest of healthy individuals?
There are probably better days to jog than today. If you're a healthy individual who don't have any underlying respiratory or heart conditions, you may be okay. But if it was up to me, I probably wouldn't risk it.
Just putting a stress on your body that may not be necessary. Let's
Correct.
get to one of our questions that came in while we were waiting. And again, you can see the email address at the bottom of the screen if you want to get in your questions. She asked about turning back on her window unit. We talked earlier about you really need to be inside, windows closed. Window units do not filter these super small particles. Probably best, if you can stand it, to have it turned off. When are we talking? What needs to happen to get this air conditioning back on?
Our air quality needs to improve, and I don't think that's going to happen dramatically until at least tomorrow.
And it's not a tonight thing. We were talking about just because the sun goes down, that smoke is still out there. By the way, this question came to us from June R. There's nothing magic about the sun and the temperature in a situation about air quality.
Correct. Yep. So the particles are still going to be out there. There's probably some filtering ability of, even the basic window units, but not enough to get the small particle sizes like we were talking about.
You were saying that the emergency department was very busy today, EMS very busy today with people that are just having breathing problems, and getting out of the conditions has been helping. That's the big thing. Mm-hmm. Boy, if you can go to a mall, if you can go to a library, there are public libraries all over the area. They've got air conditioning. That would be better than sitting in a house with windows open. Have you been surprised by the level of smoke today?
I have been. Yep. So I went outside at one point during the middle of my shift, and it's very jarring.
Yeah.
How much smoke is out there?
It's thick, it stinks, it's not exactly safe, especially for people that have asthma and COPD. Need to protect yourself. As you can see, we've got lots of questions coming in. We're going to continue our discussion. We're going to switch back topics. We'll go to cyclospora. Cyclospora. It is cyclospora. That's maybe a better name for it. But we'll continue that conversation on our Facebook stream and on our YouTube stream, the 19 channel. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, and we're live at Metro Hospital. Cyclospora. I don't know where that came from. We're going to swap out. So for the people watching at home, or unless no new questions, we'll just wrap up our conversation.
Sure.
Didn't get to bring it up on TV. Guardians game tomorrow night, 7 o'clock game. If it's like this, what's your advice?
If you have certain underlying health conditions, you just want to be very careful. And so limit your time outside. And that may mean not going to the game. But I would, if you have questions about that, I would talk to your primary care physician about it. If you have underlying conditions. I myself, don't have any respiratory conditions. I probably wouldn't go to the game tomorrow. However, you can be a healthy person and be out there and be okay. So it's really, how risk adverse are you, what your underlying conditions are, what your conversations with your physician are that's going to influence that determination.
If you're somebody that's already wheezing, walking from the parking garage the half a mile to get there,
I wouldn't risk it.
Yeah, you're taking a chance there.
You are. Yeah. You are.
And then just simply sitting out in it for 2.5, 3 hours that it takes a baseball game now.
Right. Yep.
But get an N95 mask. You could sit out there. That would definitely be safer.
That's a level of protection. Yep. For sure.
Very smart. Ever seen? Were you around 2 years ago, the summer of 2023 when we had the wildfires? Mm-hmm. But this is worse than what we saw in 2023. Mm-hmm. The particle levels are higher.
Right. The concentration of the particle levels are a little bit worse.
And I was just listening into my ear to Jason Nicholas doing the weather, and as we were talking, he said it was a very smart conversation we had, which coming from Jason Nicholas, that's great. Right? He said Jason. That exactly, the temperature going down, the sun going down makes no difference on this smoke particle. He said they're seeing in their models, there is another plume coming in about 2 to 3 hours. So this is not going away. And I hate to think of people who think, oh, the sun is setting, kind of like when it's humid out.
Exactly.
The sun is setting, I'm going to be so much better here in another couple of hours. Not going to be the case tonight, unfortunately.
Right. Yep, this is a different hazard that doesn't go away with the sun setting.
Excellent. So for the folks at home and watching us on our digital programming, we're going to take another quick break. We don't have Dr. Jenkins back until 5:34, so we're just going to take a quick break and get your questions in. Again, the email address, yourhealth@woao.com, or if you're watching us on Facebook, put your comment down there below. And we'll be back in just a bit. You're so nice. You can talk. I can hear you.
Excellent.
For those of you watching on our streaming, we're back and we have swapped out doctors. Dr. Melissa Jenkins is back talking about cyclospora, which I seem to have renamed psychospora. I do expect credit on that if that takes off. But continuing to answer questions, we've got a lot of questions about the breathing conditions, the air conditions today, but the majority of our questions today came in on oh man, now it's stuck in my head, cyclospora. I liked this one from Michelle S. This was an email. Does the parasite survive in water? And we're not sure if they're talking about whether it's a pool or if it's somebody washing their fruit or vegetable. Does it? Let's tackle both. Does it survive in water?
So it can survive in water because that's how it gets onto the vegetables in the first place, through probably some kind of watering system. But if it is taken from the vegetable to your own water supply, then it's not likely that you could become infected by, for instance, if someone who had cyclospora was swimming in a pool. That's less likely to be.
And then you made the important point that this has not been transferred person to person. If I ate the contaminated, I went to a restaurant, had a bad salad, it's not like I'm coming home and I'm giving it to my family members. That's good news.
Yes, I think that is a very important point.
And then we did get a new question from, it looks like Gemma S. Does the parasite live on countertops? If so, for how long does it live for?
It can live there, but isn't likely to infect you that way. It's really eating the produce that is contaminated with it. So, and touching the counter and then having contact with your mouth. There's been no reported cases that have happened that way.
So that's interesting. So if I had a head of lettuce on my countertop, it had the parasite. Then I also assume it would be hard to tell if you got it from the lettuce or if you got it from the countertop.
Correct. But the source of it was the produce. It's, I'll use COVID as an example where it could be in the air or it could be on
a cup or a glass that you drank out of.
Yes. And then it could infect someone. That's not how this is spread.
It's obviously not in the air. It's not airborne. That's a good thing. That's half the battle.
Yeah.
Gemma, thank you for that question. Remember, if you want to get in your questions, you still have time. You can email us at yourhealth. I always say at. I don't want people to get confused. The email address is yourhealth@woio.com, or if you're watching on Facebook, put your comment right there in the bottom. We're following along. Our digital department is watching for questions that are coming in. Let's look at a couple of other ones. Will the sickness go away on its own if you don't seek medical help? That comes from Rose S.
It can. In a lot of people, it's what we call a self-limited illness where it goes away on its own. Without treatment, sometimes it can have relapses. You'll get better and then you'll get sick again. And then I would seek medical attention if that happens. But a lot of people will recover without needing any specific treatment.
But I imagine it might be easier to recover if you've been diagnosed, you've been tested, and you start on the antibiotics. That would be easier than quote unquote toughing it out.
Yeah, if it's a mild case though, it may go away even before you decide, oh, this is time to see a doctor.
Okay.
So.
Okay, that's good. We did that. How do you get rid of it once you have it? Well, I think we just covered that. You either tough it out or you go to the doctor and get an antibiotic. We've talked about salad kits. Chris in Canton, how quickly in the past have outbreaks been identified?
It usually takes a number of weeks, sometimes longer than that. Some of the challenges with cyclospora is that it is a long time before people get sick, so tracing back to what could have made them sick is more difficult. It's also a wider spread outbreak, so it's a bigger net to cast to look for where the source could be versus if the cases are only occurring in one city.
With this outbreak being so wide, what does that tell you, and we're just speaking hypothetically, what does that tell you about the source?
It's probably more likely a nationally distributed source versus a local farm or commercial entity that's only distributing regionally.
You know, somebody that's hired by a family chain of restaurants, you know, a local chain where they get all their lettuce.
Yeah.
In fact, I was going to ask that question. The large region. We said 34 states, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We should have our next hit coming up. So for people at home or people that are watching our stream, we're dividing our time between the stream and then some television hits there. So we're getting ready for our next hit here. Should be in just a minute or two with Dr. Jenkins. And we are getting a standby. I'm going to ask you that question hypothetically, seeing as how, what do you think the source is? Not specifically, but. Yeah, we've been talking about that with the doctor here at MetroHealth because it's the kind of thing, if you don't get treated, it can sit dormant, it can hide in you, the parasite, and it can come back again. That's something you've said. It can happen. That wouldn't be pleasant.
It can happen. People will become sick for a while. It wouldn't be something that would stay dormant and months later become the first time becoming apparent.
Let's get to this question from Chris in Canton. How quickly in the past have outbreaks been identified? And we're going to kind of tailor this to say, in the past, if it's been salmonella or E. coli, it's because lettuce or tomatoes, they were watered with contaminated water at a farm, and that ends up. But you said a lot of times those are regional.
Mm-hmm. The widespread nature of this outbreak suggests that wherever the source is, it's someplace that distributes nationally. I haven't personally been involved with the investigations, but what we know from past outbreaks, if it's more than just one region, it suggests a company that distributes nationally.
And this is 34 states. That's a pretty good-sized outbreak.
Correct.
And I asked you this earlier. From an education, you're an infectious disease expert, you've studied this. How curious are you from an education, from a health standpoint, to find out what happened here and where did it start and what's going on?
Of course I'm curious. That's part of why I went into infectious disease. So,
what is it that's curious to you? What fascinates you here?
Just how something so small can cause so much destruction and outwit us. I know I'm pretty confident we'll find what the source is, and then be able to figure out the chain of events that led this to happen.
And we want to point this out again. This more than likely was nothing malicious. The chain or the farm or the distribution may not have even realized that this is happening.
Correct.
And unfortunately, we have to pay the price for it.
Yeah.
And some are paying much more of a price. Let's talk, last question, how severe can it get in some people compared to others?
The most severe cases are people who end up having to be hospitalized, and that's usually because they're losing so much fluid and electrolytes that upsets the balance and can lead to dehydration and kidney disease.
And that's an issue. The good news, in this outbreak, no one has died. It is unpleasant. It is explosive diarrhea multiple times a day. That's the unpleasant side of things, but no deaths, no panic. We're going to continue our conversation on our digital platforms. You see the email address down there. If you have a question, email us at yourhealth@woio.com. Join us on Facebook. The 19 stream Facebook is there, as well as on the YouTube channel for Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose. We'll be back here at MetroHealth next time to talk about the air quality. So that was 34, 44. So we've got 10 minutes. We'll just wrap up our conversation for the people on watching us on social media. Why so confident that we will find this, that we will eventually know it was restaurant X, it was bag lettuce X, it was what?
From past experience, we've been able to figure it out in the past and pinpoint what it was from. I guess there's a small chance that we might not, that it will pass on its own and we won't ever figure it out. But if the problem that led to the outbreak isn't fixed yet, it's going to continue and give us more data points to investigate.
So if this was maybe a farm, it would have to be a very large farm that distributes nationally that had bad water. Or if, like you said, it was a piece of equipment that something about the packaging, the parasite is getting in with the packaging, that parasite won't just go away or wear itself out, for lack of a better term, or?
I guess it depends on what the process was. That could happen. But more than likely, there will continue to be cases.
Until they figure out where was the break in the chain that led to this.
Unless it was one particular breach that fixed itself and is no longer a breach. It's hard to say.
Fine, that would be hard to believe if it was a contaminated water source or that would be interesting. So we're going to continue. I think we only get to hear from you one more time. We're almost finished. So for those of you watching on the streams, if you want to get your questions in, running out of time, put it in the Facebook. If you're watching the Facebook stream here, we're going to switch doctors and talk about the air quality and the breathing. Came in like a wildfire today. The smoke came in, ironically enough. So we're going to get back to that doctor, and we're going to swap out and take a quick break. Yeah, answering your questions. You can see some of them spread out here, and we're still taking questions. You can see the email address, brand new email address we created just for this. We're joined again by Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda. Doctor, we talked about outside. We need people to stay inside. It's not going to get better just because the sun goes down. Let's talk about tomorrow night. There's a Guardians game. They're going to have to make a decision on that, whether it's a rain delay type situation. But if you were somebody considering going to a baseball game, there's regular baseball tonight, high school stuff. Is that a good idea?
I think if you can avoid outside tonight in general, I would try to do that. Now, if you have to be there or you're otherwise healthy and you can take certain precautions like wearing an N95 mask, that would be advisable.
This is pretty unprecedented.
It is, yeah, since, I think we talked about the wildfires situation that happened in Cleveland in 2023. This situation's a little bit worse than that. So, yeah, it's definitely nothing to avoid. Nothing to ignore.
Right. I thought it was amazing. I went to work this morning, and it was noticeable. You could smell it. When I left the station to come here at 2 in the afternoon, in the parking garage, it looked like there was a fire in the garage. There was that much of an increase. It got worse throughout the day.
It did, yeah. Yeah, I took a break during my shift and walked outside to the ambulance bay, kind of in the middle of my shift today, which is around like early afternoon, and I was like, where is the fire?
Yeah, it has that feel.
It does, yeah, and you can smell it. But you just look out your window, and you can see that it's heavier.
Biggest concern for someone with asthma, and does it differ if you're a child with asthma or an adult with asthma? Does this make a difference?
It doesn't. I mean, I think that if you are in charge of a child with asthma, they may not be able to communicate with you as well as you having asthma as an adult and like understanding your own symptoms. So, if you're a parent with a child who has asthma or more severe asthma, just pay special attention to, as we talked about before, this may be a trigger for them, and they may not have been exposed to this before and know that this is, not know that this is a trigger.
Make sure you know where that inhaler is. Follow your doctor's instructions, as you said earlier. We're going to continue our conversation on our digital platforms. We've been at this for almost 3 hours now. We've gotten a lot of great questions. You can email us. The email is at the bottom of the screen, or go to the stream on Cleveland's Facebook page, Cleveland 19 Facebook page, or our YouTube page. Also look for Cleveland 19. For now, I'm Dan DeRosa at Metro. We'll be back. Excellent. We'll continue our chat for just a little bit. We've got you for just a few more minutes here, and in fact, we'll take a break after this. Unprecedented. You said the EMS was busy. What were they seeing, or have you been able to touch base with EMS as you are the director the medical director for the Cleveland Department of Public Safety?
Yep. In summer in general, our numbers are increased for a lot of different reasons. Just working in the emergency department, I can talk more about the patients that I saw brought in via EMS.
Sure. What were you seeing today?
A lot of respiratory complaints, for sure. I think is the primary patient presentation that we're seeing in the emergency department today. That's different than our usual summer influx of patients.
I think I know the answer to this, but if I'm somebody that now is having major respiratory, can that kick off other things like a heart attack, or can it kick off a stroke, or does that
certainly can, yeah. I mean, particularly if you're a severe asthmatic, or you have severe pulmonary disease, otherwise like COPD, if you're dependent on oxygen at baseline, where you have to have the nasocannula oxygen in place, or if you have underlying heart conditions, this may be enough stress to start the cascade of having heart issues.
Are there other treatments other than inhalers, people that have asthma? What are there?
No, typically not. I mean, even in the emergency department, in general, most people improve after they get out of the outside, right? indoors where you have filtered clean air exposure, which, 9 times out of 10 is going to fix most of the problems. We treat patients who have the asthma and COPD exacerbation or flare symptoms, just like we would otherwise with nebulizers, sometimes additional medications via an IV or, pill form.
I don't know why I'm so fascinated by the physically what happens when these, as you describe them, super, super small particles, when they get down into a person's lungs, what it's actually doing that causes the problem.
I think earlier we talked about the difference between, pollen size, human hair size. So human hair, just to orient everybody, is about 70 micrometers in diameter.
So 70 micrometers.
I just looked it up on our break. So pollen is about 20.
Okay.
And these particles are less than 2.5. So just very, very small. And so, pollen may be filtered in other parts of your airway, in your nose hairs and your upper airways. But these particle sizes and the concentration of the particle size is just so high, they can get deep into your lungs. And that's when it causes a problem, because they just get deeper into your lungs.
And they attach to your lungs, and it's suffocating you?
It's like an inflammatory response. And so if you have, no lung problems, you may notice some difficulty breathing, some irritation, some chest tightness. But if you have asthma or COPD or other kind of lung conditions, you may notice, flaring of your asthma or COPD in very short periods of time spent outside or exposed to, the outside air.
We had somebody write in saying that they had an eye surgery recently. What about eyes? We've been talking about lungs this whole time. I'm assuming these small particles can get in my eyes as well.
They can definitely cause some irritation as well too. So you may notice it in the kind of moist parts of your body, where the mucous membrane. So your throats, your nose, your eyes, kind of similar organs that are inflamed whenever you have seasonal allergies, that sort of thing. So you can definitely get some eye irritation for sure.
Again, stay inside.
Stay inside.
Sunglasses aren't going to help. The particles will get behind the sunglasses.
No, sunglasses wouldn't help. Safety goggles with, a seal, maybe.
If you want to.
If you want to try that, go ahead. Send us pictures. But, the real concern is the respiratory compromise that happens. And so trying to filter as many of those particles and the high concentration of particles that we're seeing in the city right now from getting into your deep lungs with an N95 or just avoiding the exposure is the best way.
Having itchy, irritated, watery eyes is one thing. Having breathing
not being
problems.
able to breathe,
Yeah.
which can, result in all sorts of other badness, is the more pressing issue for sure.
Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda, he's phenomenal from the emergency department here. And what we're going to do is we're going to take another quick break. We're going to come back around maybe about 6:04 and continue. We've got one more chance to talk with Dr. Melissa Jenkins on infectious diseases. On infectious diseases. That'll be on the topic of cyclospora. And then we'll have Dr. Escajeda back one more time. So get your questions in now about your last chance here. Go to the Facebook stream. You can put them there. Or go send us that email, yourhealth@woio.com, and we'll be back. think we're back up. We're getting back up on our digital feed. We have a new question. This was an interesting question, if I can remember where I put it, because we have so many questions. I know I have it here. These are not it. That's not it. She just handed it to me. Yeah. Oh, there it is. I left it all the way out to the outside. So hopefully you're back with us on our digital streams, joined again by Dr. Melissa Jenkins. We did get a new question, this one from Gloria B. This is on email. Another interesting question. I think since you and I have sat here discussing this for 3 hours, I might be able to answer this, but I won't answer it because that's what you're here for. Gloria B., are cellophane wrapped foods like herbs and vegetables also at risk?
Yes. That's the short answer.
Yeah.
So because we don't know what the source is, it could be one of the prepackaged herbs.
Yep.
And because the contamination happens before it's put into the cellophane, it's still at risk.
Right. Whether from the growing process, from the packaging process, it's still there. Maybe this is a good follow-up. How long can a parasite like this live? Let's say you had a cellophane, you had some rosemary in one of those plastic containers. It's cold, it's in a cool, damp climate. I mean, can it survive quite a while in that?
It would probably last longer than the rosemary would in that situation. So I don't know exactly how long it can live and still cause infection, but a long time because it has that protective cyst around it.
Right. Are parasites particularly just strong and tough to kill?
Not all parasites, but because this one has the cyst, it makes it more difficult and resistant to the usual ways that we get rid of infectious things.
And in fact, I think that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about on this next question, and if I don't write it down, it will. Why this is so strong. It's our last one. Okay. You did it.
Yeah.
See, this went by so fast. Although for you, it was probably like the longest 3 hours of my life. So for those at home, I want to thank Dr. Jenkins. First of all, she didn't sign up for this. She got volunteered, I think. So phenomenal. She's been incredible and rolled with the punches for 3.5 hours. So I'm going to thank her, as I'm sure. I look around at the names: Marty C., Rose S., Karen, Tammy J., Mark C., Lauren B., Kathy R., Cindy O., Michelle S., Larry L., Gemma S., Gloria B., just some of the many people that got us in questions. So thank you for your help for this, because
You're welcome.
We need it from the experts. That's what the people want. Just getting ready for our last hit here. Should be in a minute or two. Our 6 o'clock producer is Sarah, so I'll say hello to Sarah. Hi there, how are you? Okay. 2-minute max. Pretty heavy on this one, so this will be one of our shorter ones.
Okay.
Yeah, been phenomenal. I'm not surprised that our viewers have such intelligent questions for Dr. Melissa Jenkins. Again, let's get back to why this is different than perhaps we've seen E. coli and Salmonella outbreaks. You've told me those are bacteria. This is different because Cyclospora is a parasite. Why is it so tough?
So the usual things that we do to kill infectious agents like heat, chlorination, disinfectant doesn't get through that cyst that Cyclospora makes.
So it grows a cyst, what, like almost like a suit of armor?
Like a shell.
A shell.
Yeah, a suit of armor is a good way to put it. Heat at high temperatures, like boiling, can kill it, but chlorine doesn't kill it. Other detergents don't kill it. So.
We've had a question asking about if it's on my countertop. Am I going to get it from there? Interesting, because if it got on your countertop, it probably came from a food that you brought in your house.
Correct. And the cases that have been reported are from ingestion. There's no person-to-person spread that we know of.
That's big here. This isn't like somebody went to a restaurant, had a bad salad, came home and gave it to the rest of their family. That's not happening here. That's not what happens.
Correct. Correct.
That helps keep the spread a little bit lower.
Correct.
And again, if you have symptoms 3-4 days, the advice?
You should seek medical attention. If it's a shorter illness, it may not be Cyclospora, but if you're reaching that 5 to 7 day mark, it might be time to go see your doctor.
Dr. Melissa Jenkins, infectious disease expert here at Metro. I want to thank you on behalf of our viewers. We want to get the word out to people. This is not a time to panic. Nobody has died from this, but having multiple rounds of diarrhea in a day is unpleasant, and I think we all want to avoid that. That goes without saying. We're going to have one more coming up here from Metro Hospital. We're going to talk about the smoke. We're going to bring back Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda to talk about what you should do and not do, and why just because the sun goes down in a couple of hours doesn't mean you're any safer than you are right now. We'll be back here at Metro in a bit. Excellent. Great. I think I'm going to cut you loose. We could go through the questions. Maybe we'll just rip through a couple questions real quick. What were the origins of the parasite in the past? We don't really have a good answer to that. We know that in E. coli and Salmonella, you said it's
oftentimes tomatoes, green onions. Cyclospora has been associated with raspberries in the past. Doesn't mean it's going to be raspberries this time. But that's the classic one where the outbreaks have occurred in.
We've asked that one a couple of times. How long does it take for the parasite to leave the body? Let's say you don't get an antibiotic and maybe you have a milder case. But here's the problem is it can come back. So let's talk about how long does it take to leave the body?
So assuming it's not going to relapse, probably within 5 to 10 days, the symptoms should get better and the person recovers without treatment. Sometimes people do need treatment. If it's going to relapse, there's not really a set amount of time that can pass. But if you had an episode of diarrhea and you get better and now you're having it again, at least in the setting of this outbreak, I would seek medical attention and testing so that you can be treated and stop that.
What would you be surprised, even though we don't probably have solid numbers, like the length of time in between? So maybe I had some diarrhea. You would be surprised if, what, a month later or 2 weeks later?
I would not know more than 1 to 2 months later. It's not something that I would expect to recur a year later after that.
Okay, but it could be a month later. It could come back. Because again, it's trying to survive and thrive, and maybe the parasite stays in your body until it goes again. How do you get rid of it once you have it?
Trimethoprim sulfa or Bactrim is the antibiotic that works for it.
Excellent. We've talked about salad kits because we don't know where this is coming from. A salad kit makes no difference if you're getting a head of lettuce or a salad kit. Are children affected any differently than adults? There doesn't seem to be any evidence there.
Correct. Same symptoms, can be severe. but the same presentation. It doesn't seem to affect children more or less than it does adults.
A lot of this comes down to your underlying. Obviously, older adults are going to have more health problems. There are children with health problems. Parents need to be aware of what's going on. That would be a toddler with diarrhea for 2 or 3 days. Probably should be like a whoa kind of moment.
Yeah.
You would want to get them checked out. Excellent. Dr. Jenkins, want to thank you for all your time here today.
You are
You've been
welcome.
phenomenal, and we're going to cut you loose.
All right.
For our viewers at home, stay right there. We're going to swap out doctors. Back on. We've got back with us Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda. He's the emergency room doctor who just finished up a shift at 4 o'clock. He's also the medical director for the Cleveland Department of Public Safety, which means fire and EMS. Boy, we haven't even gone there. I can't imagine being a firefighter out in this, trying to fight a fire.
Firefighters have a very difficult job at baseline, and they're exposed to a lot of carcinogens and stressful situations, and this is certainly not making their job easier.
Because now you're at a fire where it's producing smoke and the air is already saturated with smoke. Granted, they have apparatus that they can wear, but that presents a whole nother situation. Let's go over some of the questions we've had sent in from some of our viewers before we get to our last hit coming up here in just about 2 minutes. So those of you watching on TV or on our digital streams will see us go to the news here in just a second. How dangerous is the air quality from the wildfires? That comes to us from, looks like Alejandra M.
I think we are at the unhealthy level as far as air quality index currently, which means that even if you're a healthy person, you can experience, respiratory distress. But most people are going to experience some irritation symptoms. Maybe feel a little scratchy in your throats, maybe some eye irritation, kind of similar to like a seasonal allergy type symptoms. But certainly with a lot of other environmental illnesses, the two extremes of age are always the most vulnerable, so the very young and the very old, and then if you have underlying health conditions that set you up for just getting sicker.
And I think that makes sense. If you're the young, your body hasn't fully developed, your immune system is still trying to get on track. And if you're old, you're on the other side of that. You probably already have other health issues that come with age, and so that's why that's an issue. Anyone more affected than the other? We had that question with cyclospora, younger, older. This has got to be across the board.
I think it is across the board. It really depends on, I think, if you have underlying conditions or not, what's going to make you experience symptoms more so and more quickly than others, not necessarily age category. Like asthmatic children certainly are going to be affected more than a child who's of similar age without asthma.
And we discussed this earlier, that it really comes down to your doctor's plan, especially for a child.
Exactly.
And any variance in that need to go back to that doctor.
Exactly. Yep. Talk to your child's doctor, talk to your doctor if you're having issues. Symptoms that you shouldn't ignore would be chest pain, shortness of breath, lightheadedness, seek emergency department care, or call 911.
And that obviously has to be a conversation, especially depending on how young the child is. And that'll be the question. We'll have 2 minutes for this, and we're getting close to. That's the question I'm going to ask when it comes to kids. give us the symptoms that parents really need to be, finely tuned into. Yeah, these are all the questions we've gotten over the last 3.5 hours from our viewers. Great questions. We're joined again by Dr. Jeremiah Escajeda, works here in the emergency department. He's also the director of health for the Department of Public Safety. That means EMS, fire. Let's talk about kids. We're getting questions from parents. Give us the symptoms they need to really, especially a child that may have asthma, already has a breathing problem, rip off the symptoms they need to be acutely aware of here.
I think understanding what your child's, if you have a child who has asthma, understanding what their typical triggers are may not be the case today, right? Today, in just exposure to the air quality and how it's so poor right now, may be the trigger that something else was the trigger previously. Like, every time my child gets a cold, he gets an asthma exacerbation. And, since children are so young, they may have not experienced this poor air quality. And so they may not know that this is a trigger for them.
What do we look for?
Shortness of breath, coughing, wheezing, those sorts of things. Those symptoms are going to differ from patient to patient, and parents know their child best and know when they're sick best. So a child who starts coughing suddenly and oh my gosh, that's their typical asthma symptom that presents. Just paying attention to those symptoms.
Get the inhaler, make sure you've got the refill, that the inhaler's ready to go, a call to the doctor if it gets worse. I want to thank Dr. Escajeda. I want to thank MetroHealth for giving us this opportunity to get you the information for your family right from the source, right from the experts, as we all have questions about whether it's cyclospora or the weather and the smoke outside. I'm Dan DeRose for the last time from MetroHealth. Have a good evening. Excellent. And for our viewers digitally, I think we've covered about as well as we can from both sides of this. So I want to thank you for watching. If you have any other questions, you can continue to send those in to us at the new email, yourhealth@woio.com. Otherwise, when there's a next segment, as they said, when there's another outbreak, and it's not a question of if, but when there's another outbreak, of course, we're going to turn to MetroHealth to get you the answers. Until then, I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News.